Chapter 1912. Chang, an imperial astronomer. Beep, 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 beep. There's a telegram. The other two eunuchs in the room also looked over. The telegram machine was not widely available, and there were only a few people in the entire Tang Empire who owned one. Therefore, the person who sent the telegram to the palace was either Li Zishuan or Li Tai. Li Zishuan was currently in the military camp. If there was anything, he could have just sent someone to the palace to pass the message or enter the palace personally. There was no need for him to send a telegram. Therefore, the person who sent the telegram could only be Li Tai. Quick, come and help translate the message. All right. The two of them replied and quickly went forward to translate the message with the eunuchs. Moments later, the expressions of the three people in the room changed. The eunuchs who first recorded the message stood up and said, Taiyuan is in danger. You guys wait here. I have to present this telegram to His Majesty immediately. Yes. The two of them cupped their fists and accepted the order. The eunuchs kept the translated message and rushed out of the room. In the Sweet Dew Hall, Li Er and Zhao Song were talking about the martial arts competition in the Black Armored Army the next day. The rules set by this kid are quite interesting. After the morning court tomorrow, I'll make a trip to the Black Armored Army's camp to join the fun and see the results of the Black Armored Army's training under this kid's new training manual. Li Er looked at the small booklet in his hand and smiled meaningfully. He then said to Zhao Song, who was beside him, Do you want me to inform General Duan beforehand? Upon hearing this, Zhao Song was not surprised by Li Er's decision at all. He asked tentatively, There's no need for that. Li Er shook his head and said, It's just the two of us. We could just change into casual clothes and go. It will also save us a lot of trouble. Although the world could not be said to be at peace, the great Tang had been at peace for a very long time. At the end of the 4th month, after Shuafang City was breached by the Tang army and Liang Shi was beheaded, Li Er had eliminated all the rebel forces in the Tang Empire. As the capital of the empire, Chang, and was much safer than other places in the Tang Empire. Therefore, Li Er was not worried that he would encounter any assassins when he left the palace in disguise. Unlike the other pampered emperors who grew up in the palace, Li Er had done this kind of thing many times before. Yes, Your Majesty. Hearing this, Zhao Song hesitated. He wanted to say a few words of advice, but after being by Li Er's side for so many years, he knew Li Er's temper very well. Therefore, he swallowed the words that were already at the tip of his tongue and changed his tone. However, he was secretly pondering in his heart. No matter what happened tomorrow, he had to arrange for some experts to secretly follow them. Otherwise, if something happened to Li Er, he would die 1,000 deaths. Your Majesty, Prince Wei's palace has sent an urgent report. Just as Zhao Song finished speaking, a chamberlain hurriedly ran in from outside. After entering the hall, the chamberlain bowed to Li Er with a piece of paper in his hands. Before this, Li Er had instructed the Imperial Army soldiers outside the Taiji Palace to report to the Imperial Astronomer if there were any urgent matters. They could directly enter Ganlu Palace without any notice. What? Green Sparrow urgent report? Quickly present it. Li Er, who was sitting at the head of the table, was shocked when he heard this and hurriedly said. Zhao Song's expression also became serious. He quickly walked in front of the chamberlain, took the paper from the chamberlain's hands, and then quickly handed it to Li Er. Li Er did not waste any time. After receiving the report, he immediately opened it and read it carefully. On it was written, Your son, Green Sparrow, reports to Imperial Father. Today, your son suddenly received news that there is a group of Turkic spies hiding in Taiji City. The leader is a Han man named Zhao Diyan, formerly the village head of the Han family manor, Han Tianhu. This morning, we accidentally intercepted a letter that this person sent to the grasslands. This telegram was not long, but it was not short either. It was more than 300 words long. The main reason was that this matter was too important and too complicated. It cannot be explained in a few words. If it was not explained clearly, it could easily affect Li Er's judgment and decision-making. When the time came, it was very likely that one careless move would cause the entire game to be lost. Therefore, Li Tai used as concise words as he could to tell Li Er everything that had happened that afternoon, including how Tai Dan had disguised himself as him to escort a batch of fake goods to Longshan and how he had been ambushed in the south of the city. Li Tai also told him about how Tai Dan had disguised himself as him and escorted a batch of fake goods to Longshan. However, Li Tai did not mention Dugu Xian's conjectures about the Wang clan in this telegram. The main reason was that they had no proof at the moment. It would be rather inappropriate to rashly mention them. The telegram of more than 300 words took a very long time to translate, but it seemed that he could finish reading it in a few moments. After reading the telegram, Li Er's brow was tightly furrowed, his face dark. When he received the news that Dugu Xian had been assassinated in Taiji City this morning, he had suspected that it might be the work of a Turkic spy. But he had never imagined that the assassin hiding in Taiji City would be so bold as to have Shelley lead his troops into the Great Tang and then work together to take down Taiji and capture Li Tai alive. The other party's ambition was simply too great. And just where did this Zhao Dian come from? As a Han, not only was he working for the Turks, he was also in contact with the Great Khan of the Turks. And why was this person so familiar with the mission that Li Tai's party had taken north to Taiji, and why was he so familiar with the functions of the telegram relay station? These were top secrets of Yanwang College, let alone a Turkic spy. Even many officials in the imperial court did not know about the mission of the college and the specific functions of the telegram relay station. How did this Zhao Dian know? At this moment, many thoughts flashed through Li Er's mind, but most of them were shock and fear. Just think, if Han Lijing had not been able to intercept Zhao Dian's messenger pigeon, Li Tai, Dugu Xian, and the others in Taiji City would not have known who their opponents were until the Turkic wolf cavalry arrived at the city gates. How could they have prepared in advance? Quickly send a message to Qin Ke and order Bingzhou Governor Wang Liaoyuan to send a warning document to Feng Province, Sheng Province, Yinzhou, and Yuzhou at the speed of 800 li. Remind the governors of these 4 provinces to strengthen the defense of the border passes and not allow a single Turk to enter the Great Tang. Violators will be punished by military law. Forcefully suppressing the questions in his mind, Li Er put down the message in his hand and looked up at the Chamberlain as he sternly ordered. As the Chamberlain quickly recorded Li Er's words, he bowed and said, "This servant obeys the decree. In addition, order Bingzhou's Jinchong Prefecture to protect Qin Ke and the teachers and students of Yanwang College at all costs. In addition, for the safety of Taiji City, order Bingzhou Governor Wang Liaoyuan to find out Zhao Dian's identity within 3 days and arrest him." Li Er thought for a moment and added, "This servant obeys the decree." The Chamberlain's pen flew through the air as he quickly recorded Li Er's words on the book in his hand. He bowed and replied, "Go." Li Er thought for a moment and had no other orders, so he waved his hand for the Chamberlain to leave. The Chamberlain bowed and then left Sweet Dew Palace. Zhao Song stood to the left of Li Er. From start to finish, he did not ask what was written on the telegram. Even though he was extremely curious, he understood that if Li Er wanted him to know, there was no need for him to ask. Li Er would tell him directly. On the contrary, if Li Er did not want him to know, even if he asked, Li Er would not tell him. On the contrary, he might even punish him. At this moment, Li Er picked up the telegram and passed it to Zhao Song. "Zhao Song, go and check if there is a Han high-ranking official named Zhao Dian under Shelley's tent. This is a telegram from Qin Ke. Take a look." Zhao Song received the telegram with both hands and bowed. "This old servant obeys the decree." Before he could flip through the telegram, Li Er spoke again. "Has Li Junxian and the rest arrived at Taiyuan City?" Zhao Song clasped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, half an hour ago, this old servant received a message from Commander Li. He said that he had arrived at Taiyuan City in the morning and discovered that there was a hidden faction in Taiyuan City secretly monitoring Your Highness and the rest. He is currently hiding in the dark to make it easier to find out the background of this faction. Thus, he did not appear to meet Your Highness. Instead, he has been hiding in the dark to protect Your Highness." Hearing this, Li Er felt much more at ease. He nodded and said, Li Juanxian's work is truly reassuring. It is easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to defend against a hidden arrow. Let him hide in the dark. At this point, Li Er suddenly frowned. He suddenly remembered that Li Juanxian's method of communication was actually through a messenger pigeon. After experiencing the convenience of the telegraph, the messenger pigeon was already a backward method of communication in Li Er's eyes. After all, how could a messenger pigeon be faster than a telegram, electromagnetic wave? It was a pity that none of the 100 horsemen knew how to use a telegraph. Otherwise, he could have given the 100 horsemen a few telegraph machines so that Li Juanxian could report the situation in Taiyuan City to him at any time. Your Majesty is right, Zhao Song replied. After a moment of silence, Li Er suddenly said, Don't let the Empress know about this for now. Otherwise, she'll be so worried that she'll have nightmares all night. Speaking of nightmares, Li Er couldn't help but recall the dream that Empress Zhangsun had described to him. Reality seemed to be reflecting that dream. There was a group of Han people in Taiyuan City who had sided with the Turks, and they were planning to harm Li Tai and arrest. Then, would Li Tai and arrest be captured by that group of people? They won't. We will never let those rascals succeed, Li Er said firmly in his mind. This old servant understands. Zhao Song responded. Li Er waved his hand at him and said, Go ahead. Help us find out Zhao Dian's identity as quickly as possible. Yes. Zhao Song bowed and accepted the order. Hugging the report from Li Tai, he walked out of the hall. Chapter 1913. General, your subordinate has already found the identity of the owner of Tongfu Inn. In a residence near Tongfu Inn in Taiyuan City, a muscular man dressed in casual clothes clasped his fist and bowed to Li Juanxian. This man was none other than the 100 horsemen Li Juanxian had sent to investigate Tongfu in Linjiang. Li Juanxian's eyes flashed. Oh, tell me. Lin Jiang straightened his body and said, General, the owner of Tongfu Inn is called Sun Dafu, a native of Taiyuan with no significant background. However, the owner behind the scenes of this Tongfu Inn had some background. Their owner's name was Gao Yong, and Gao Yong's sister had married the eldest son of the Wang family's second elder, Wang Hong. It could be said that he had a close relationship with the Wang family's second branch. It was precisely because of his relationship with the Wang family that Gao Yong had been able to thrive in Sourcepeak City these past few years. Apart from the Tongfu Inn, he also owned 2 silk shops and a jewelry and jade shop. His family's wealth was quite high, but it's rumored that Gao Yong has done quite a bit of bullying in Taiyuan City in the past few years, but he has quieted down a little in recent years. The owner of Tongfu Inn is actually related to the Wang clan's second branch. Li Juanxian was rather surprised, and a pensive look appeared on his face. Lin Jiang quietly stood there, waiting for Li Juanxian's next order. After a few moments of thought, Li Juanxian raised his head and said, Has Gao Yong had any contact with the Wang clan's second branch since Zhu Zeching took up residence in Tongfu Inn? In truth, Li Juanxian had originally believed that the owner of Tongfu Inn was a Turkic spy planted in Taiyuan City. This was why Zhu Zeching had known in advance that Li Tai's group would be staying at Tongfu Inn and had set up an ambush there. This was also why he had sent people to investigate Tongfu Inn. Now that he had learned that the owner of Tongfu Inn was inextricably linked to the Wang clan's second branch, the situation became rather complicated. Reporting to the general, this subordinate has already found out the identity of the owner behind this Tongfu Inn. In a residence near Tongfu Inn in Taiyuan City, a muscular man dressed in casual clothes clasped his fist and bowed to Li Juanxian. This was the 100 horsemen Li Juanxian had sent to investigate Tongfu Inn. His name was Lin Jiang. Li Juanxian's eyes flashed. Oh, tell me about it. Lin Jiang straightened up and said, replying to the general, The innkeeper of this Tongfu Inn is called Sun Dafu. He's a native of Taiyuan and doesn't have much of background. However, the owner behind the scenes of this Tongfu Inn had some background. Their owner's name was Gao Yong, and Gao Yong's sister had married the eldest son of the Wang family's second elder, Wang Hong. It could be said that he had a close relationship with the Wang family's second branch. It was precisely because of the Wang family's relationship that Gao Yong had been able to thrive in Sourcepeak City these past few years. Apart from the Tong Fu Inn, he also had 2 silk shops and a jade shop in the city. His family was quite wealthy. However, according to the rumors, this Gao Yong has done a lot of things to bully men and seize women in Taiyuan City in the past few years. However, he has quieted down a little in recent years. The owner behind Tongfu Inn is actually related to the Wang family's second branch. Li Junxian was rather surprised, and a pensive look appeared on his face. Lin Jiang quietly stood there, waiting for Li Junxian's next order. After a few moments of thought, Li Junxian raised his head and said, "Ever since Zhu Zeching took up residence at Tongfu Inn, has Gao Yong had any contact with the Wang family's second branch?" In truth, Li Junxian had originally believed that the owner of Tongfu Inn was a Turkic spy planted in Sourcepeak City. This was why Zhu Zeching had known in advance that Li Tai's group would be staying at Tongfu Inn and had set up an ambush there. Chapter 1914. It was 4:45 dusk. According to the weather of the past few days, the sky should be filled with red clouds, but today's weather was a little strange. At noon, the sun was still shining brightly, but at dusk, not only was there no sunset glow in the sky, it was also a little gloomy. Thick clouds covered the sky, giving people a very oppressive feeling. However, it did not seem like it was going to rain, because the clouds in the sky were not dark clouds. Generally speaking, the sky would only turn dark at around 7 in this season, but today's abnormal weather caused Taiyuan City to become a little gloomy. At this moment, a group of people took advantage of the fact that the sky wasn't completely dark. They rode their horses from the post house towards the direction of the city. The people in the lead were a young man and a middle-aged man. Behind them was a group of powerful soldiers. In addition, there were 2 young men who were walking in the middle of the group. At this time, most of the people in the city had returned to their homes, so there were not many people on the streets. Therefore, this group of people traveled very quickly. In about 15 minutes, they arrived at the provincial governor's mansion in the city. The group of people dismounted, and the slightly plump youth in the middle of the group walked to the front. After seeing this, the guards at the entrance of the provincial governor's mansion did not dare to stop them. Instead, they respectfully bowed and said, "Your Highness." That's right, this group was Li Tai, Dugu Feng, Han Tianhu, and Iron Egg. In the past few days, Li Tai had had many dealings with the provincial governor's mansion, so it was not strange that the guards at the entrance knew Li Tai. Is Provincial Governor Wang in the government office? Li Tai did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Your Highness, Provincial Governor Wang is in the back hall, discussing matters with Adjunct Fong. I will go and report to you now." The guards at the entrance quickly cupped their fists and replied, "Oh, Adjunct Fong is also there? That's great." Hearing this, Li Tai muttered softly. Then he flicked his sleeves and said, "No need to report. We will go in ourselves." With that, he directly walked past the 2 guards at the entrance and into the courtyard. When Dugu Feng, Han Tianhu, and Iron Egg saw this, they quickly followed. As for the 2 bailiffs, they could only watch as Li Tai and the others entered. Naturally, they did not dare to stop them. This general's men have already searched through all the houses in the city. Those who have weapons from the Chu Ironware shop have all been brought to the magistrate's office. However, this general heard that the weapons in these people's hands were all made by the Chu Ironware shop a long time ago. They are not the latest batch. Indeed. In the afternoon, this official ordered the blacksmiths of Chuji Ironware shop to carefully identify the weapons that were confiscated. Unexpectedly, not a single one of them came from the batch of weapons that the mysterious person behind the scenes ordered. Now, it seems that it's impossible to use those weapons to track down the mysterious person behind the scenes. Then what should we do? Today, we have searched the city wantonly. That mysterious person will definitely be alerted. It will be even more difficult to find him later. Moreover, sealing the city is not a solution. There are hundreds of thousands of people in Taiyuan City. The people need to eat and live. If the city is sealed for a long time, the people in the city will definitely panic. The daily lives of the people in the city will also be greatly affected. Sigh, how can this official not know what you are saying? His Majesty only gave us 7 days to close the case. This official is more anxious than anyone else. Provincial Governor Wang, there is no need to be anxious. This prince has come to give you a clue. When Li Tai walked near the back hall, he happened to hear Fang Gongting and Wang Liaoyuan discussing today's large-scale search. Hearing this, and seeing that the door was not closed, he directly lifted his feet and walked into the room. Your Highness? As there was no report, Wang Liaoyuan and Fang Gongting did not know that Li Tai had come to the provincial governor's mansion. When they saw Li Tai suddenly appear at the door, the two were shocked. Then they hurriedly greeted him and said, "This official, this general, pays his respects to your highness." Chapter 19:15. Xiao Bao has come on master's orders to report to my lords. My master and I have met the person the government is looking for today. In the rear hall of the government office, the young alchemist from Rejuvenation Hall cupped his hands to Wang Liaoyuan after greeting everyone in the room. Speaking of this little medicine boy, they had just seen him in the morning. He was the youth that Gongsun Liang had brought with him when he came to the post house to detoxify Dugu Xian. His name was Xiao Bao, and he and Gongsun Liang should have a master-disciple relationship. What? You've seen the person in the portrait? After Lil Bao finished speaking, the room was silent for a moment. Then Li Tai said in surprise. Li Tai had wanted to personally interrogate the assassin he had captured in the afternoon after returning from Dragon Mountain. But on the way back, he had run into Han Tianhu, who had rushed over from Yifan County. Later on, he had seen the letter Zhao Dian had sent to the Turks via messenger pigeon. For the sake of the overall situation, Li Tai had no choice but to temporarily put aside the idea of personally interrogating the assassin. Instead, he had come to the provincial governor's residence to deliver Li Er's decree to Wang Liaoyuan and Fang Gongting. But putting it aside for now did not mean that he would completely let it go. Li Tai had always felt somewhat uneasy about this assassin. He had speculated that the assassin might have come from another faction in Taiyuan City, and that this faction might be in cahoots with Zhao Dian. Li Tai had not expected to find clues related to the assassin in the provincial governor's residence, so he was naturally overjoyed. Xiao Bao also knew of Li Tai's identity. Upon hearing Li Tai's question, he turned and cupped his hands to Li Tai. Your Highness, my master once treated the mother of this person in the portrait. Starting from the beginning of last year, he would come to our Rejuvenation Hall every once in a while to get medicine. Although he sometimes did not go in person, it was still possible to tell from the prescription that he had asked someone else to get the medicine for him. Li Tai was delighted to hear this. He hurriedly asked, Your master treated this person's mother, so he should know this person's name and residence, right? Also, what illness does this person's mother suffer from? Why hasn't he been cured after taking medicine for more than a year? As long as the identity of this person was confirmed, then the power behind this person would be even easier to investigate. Li Tai thought to himself. However, to his disappointment, Xiao Bao shook his head and said, This person doesn't like to talk. I remember that when this person carried his mother to the clinic, he only said 3 sentences to my master from beginning to end. Can you cure her? How much is the consultation fee? And thank you. My master said that the auntie was suffering from tuberculosis, which could not be cured. My master could only prescribe some medicine to nourish the lungs, clear away heat, and consolidate qi to relieve the pain and temporarily prolong her life. Later on, I heard that before that person came to our Huichun Hall, he had already gone to several medical centers in the city, but no one dared to treat his mother. After thinking about it, it should be that the prescription my master gave was indeed useful to the auntie, so that person would come to our clinic every once in a while or invite other people to come and get the medicine. However, every time he came, he would leave in a hurry after getting the medicine and paying the fee. No one knew what his name was or where he lived. Li Tai frowned and could not help but feel a little speechless. A person came to your clinic to get medicine for more than a year, and you don't even know the name of the other party? Xiao Bao scratched his head embarrassedly and said, Master often told us that as a doctor, We only need to care about curing illnesses and saving people. The consultation fee. As for other things, we shouldn't ask too much. Hearing this, Li Tai was a little mad, but when he thought of Gong's son Liang's strange temper in the morning, it seemed that it was not strange for him to say such words. After pondering for a moment, Li Tai calmed down and continued to ask, "The prescription that Mr. Gong's son gave to that person, I wonder if you can lend it to this prince to take a look?" The little medicine boy seemed to be prepared. He took out a folded rice paper from his sleeve and stepped forward. "Before coming to the yamen, my master wrote another copy of the prescription. Your Highness, please take a look." Dugu Feiying stepped forward and took the prescription from the little medicine boy, then went forward and handed it to Li Tai. Li Tai took the prescription and looked at it carefully. He saw the words on the prescription: top quality Gladitsia, 12 Chien, Ophiophagon, 10 Chien, Shungdi, 18 Chien, 15 Chien, Baiji, 20 Chien, tortoise shell, 12 Chien, caterpillar fungus, 10 Chien. Li Tai naturally did not have any medical knowledge. The purpose of him looking at the prescription was not to find any problems with it. After a while, Li Tai put away the prescription and looked up at the medicine boy. This medicine is not cheap, right? This was because he saw several precious medicinal herbs in this prescription. After staying in Yanhuang College for more than a year, Li Tai was no longer the prince who did not eat the food of mortals. At the very least, he knew the hardships of the people. The little medicine boy nodded and said, "Your Highness guessed right. This medicine costs 700 Chien. The patient takes one in the morning and one in the evening. Every time that person went to get the medicine, he would get 10 days' worth of medicine because some herbs will lose their efficacy after being stored for a long time. Master suggested that he only get 10 days' worth of medicine each time at most. However, although that person did not dress like a rich person, he did not hesitate at all when he paid. Moreover, he has never defaulted on the payment of medicine to our Huichun Hall. One medicine costs 700 Chien, once in the morning and once in the evening. In other words, that Annie's medicine cost nearly 2 strings of money a day." Hearing this, Li Tai's eyes flashed, and he seemed to be thinking about something. For a prince like him, this amount of money was insignificant. However, Li Tai understood that for a commoner, the cost of 2 strings of money a day was a huge burden. A normal family would not be able to afford it. Not only did that assassin bear it, but he also persisted for more than a year. This was enough to show that he definitely had a powerful backing behind him. All right, this prince knows everything. In the future, please help me find out more about this person's background. It will be even better if you know where this person lives. After coming back to his senses, Li Tai looked at Xiao Bao and said in a deep voice, "Yes, Your Highness's words. Xiao Bao will definitely pass it on to Master when I return. It's just that." The medicine boy cupped his hands and then scratched his head embarrassedly. He wanted to say something, but stopped. "Just what?" Seeing this, Li Tai asked subconsciously. The medicine boy hesitated for a moment. In the end, as if he had made up his mind, he stammered, "Just that. Xiao Bao saw on the notice that anyone who provides useful clues will be rewarded with 100 strings of money. I don't know if the clue I provided is considered a useful clue." It turned out that the medicine boy's main purpose was to provide clues. His main purpose was to ask for the reward. Hearing this, everyone did not know whether to laugh or cry. As the provincial governor of Bing Province, Wang Liaoyuan posted the notice in the name of the provincial governor's residence. At this moment, he stood up and said to the medicine boy, "Haha, the clue you provided is naturally useful. In a while, I will get someone to bring you to receive your reward." The medicine boy was overjoyed and quickly bowed to Wang Liaoyuan. "Thank you, provincial governor." This enthusiasm was completely different from when he answered Li Tai's question. It was as if he was a completely different person. It was as if he had money, he was the boss. Seeing this, Li Tai could not help but say, "No wonder Mr. Gong's son didn't come. It turns out that you want to earn some pocket money from the provincial governor's residence." This was originally a joke. In Li Tai's opinion, such an important matter should have been handled by Gong's son, Liang himself. But now, only the little alchemy boy had come. It was very likely that the little alchemy boy had seen the reward notice and wanted to earn some pocket money, so he had secretly come behind Gong Sun Liang's back. Unexpectedly, this sentence seemed to annoy Wang Liao Yuan. Xiao Bao is here to report to all of you on the orders of my master. Today, my master and I have seen the person posted on the notice. In Taiyuan City, the medicine boy from Huichun Hall cupped his hands to Wang Liao Yuan after greeting everyone in the room. Speaking of this little medicine boy, they had just seen him in the morning. He was the youth that Gong Sun Liang had brought with him when he came to the post house to detoxify Dugu Xian. His name was Xiao Bao, and he and Gong Sun Liang should have a master-disciple relationship. What? You've seen the person in the portrait? After Lil Bao finished speaking, the room was silent for a moment. Then, Li Tai exclaimed in surprise. Li Tai had wanted to personally interrogate the assassin he had captured in the afternoon after returning from Dragon Mountain. But on the way back, he had run into Han Tianu, who had rushed over from Yifang County. Later on, he had seen the letter Zhao Dian had sent to the Turks via pigeon. For the sake of the overall situation, Li Tai was forced to temporarily put aside the idea of personally interrogating the assassin. Instead, he had come to the provincial governor's residence to deliver Li Er's decree to Wang Liao Yuan and Fang Gongting. However, putting it aside temporarily did not mean that he would completely let it go. Regarding that assassin, Li Tai always felt a faint sense of uneasiness in his heart. This was because he speculated that the assassin might have come from another faction in Source Peak City. Moreover, that faction might have colluded with Zhao Dian. Li Tai had not expected to find clues related to that assassin in the provincial governor's residence, so he was naturally overjoyed. Xiao Bao also knew Li Tai's identity. Hearing Li Tai's question, he turned to Li Tai and cupped his hands. Replying to Your Highness, the person in the portrait, my master once treated his mother's illness. Since the beginning of last year, he would come to our rejuvenation hall every once in a while to get medicine. Although sometimes he did not go in person, it was still possible to tell from the prescription that he had asked someone else to get the medicine for him. Li Tai was delighted to hear this. He hurriedly asked, Your master treated this person's mother, so he should know this person's name and residence, right? Also, what illness does this person's mother suffer from? Why hasn't she been cured after taking medicine for more than a year? As long as this person's identity was confirmed, the faction behind this person would be even easier to investigate. Li Tai thought to himself. However, to his disappointment, Xiao Bao shook his head and said, This person doesn't like to talk. I remember that when this person carried his mother to the clinic, he only said 3 sentences to my master from beginning to end. Can you cure her? How much is the consultation fee? And thank you. My master said that the aunt was suffering from tuberculosis, which could not be cured. My master could only prescribe some medicine to nourish the lungs, clear away heat, and consolidate qi to relieve the pain and temporarily prolong her life. Later on, I heard that before that person came to our rejuvenation hall, he had already gone to several medical halls in the city, but no one dared to treat his mother. Later on, I thought that the prescription my master had prescribed was indeed useful to that aunt, so that person would come to our medical hall every once in a while or invite someone else to get the medicine. However, every time he came, he would leave in a hurry after getting the medicine and paying. No one knew his name or where he lived. Li Tai frowned and couldn't help but feel a little speechless. A person came to your medical hall to get medicine for more than a year, and you don't even know his name? Xiao Bao scratched his head and said, Master often told us that as a doctor, we only need to care about curing illnesses and saving people, the consultation fee. As for other things, we shouldn't ask too much. Hearing this, Li Tai was a little mad, but thinking of Gong Sun Liang's strange temper when he saw him in the morning, it seemed that it was not strange for him to say such words. After a moment of silence, Li Tai calmed down and continued to ask, Mr. Gong Sun Liang's prescription for that person, I wonder if you can lend it to this prince to take a look? The little medicine boy seemed to have been prepared. He took out a folded paper from his sleeve and stepped forward. Before coming to the yamen, my master wrote another copy of the prescription. Your Highness, please take a look. Dugu Feiying stepped forward and took the prescription from the little medicine boy. then went forward and handed it to Li Tai. Li Tai took the prescription and looked at it carefully. He saw the words on the prescription: top quality Gladitsia sinensis 12 chien, Ophiopagon japonicus 12 chien, asparagus 10 chien, shundi 18 chien, baiji 15 chien, tortoise shell 20 chien, donkey hide gelatin 12 chien, caterpillar fungus 12 chien, huang lien 10 chien. Li Tai naturally didn't know anything about medicine. The purpose of him looking at the prescription was not to find the problem with it. After a while, Li Tai put away the prescription and looked up at the medicine boy. This medicine is not cheap, right? This was because he saw several precious medicinal herbs in this prescription. After staying in Yanhuan College for more than a year, Li Tai was no longer the unworldly prince. At the very least, he knew the hardships of the people. The little medicine boy nodded and said, "Your Highness guessed correctly. This medicine costs 700 chien. The patient takes one in the morning and one in the evening. Every time that person went to get the medicine, he would get 10 days' worth of medicine. Because some herbs will lose their efficacy after being stored for a long time, my master advised him to only get 10 days' worth of medicine each time. However, although that person didn't dress like a rich person, he didn't hesitate at all when he paid. Moreover, he has never defaulted on the payment of medicine for our Huichun Hall. One medicine costs 700 chien, once in the morning and once in the evening. In other words, that Annie's medicine cost nearly 2 strings of money a day." Hearing this, Li Tai's eyes flashed, and he seemed to be deep in thought. For a prince like him, this amount of money was insignificant. However, Li Tai understood that for a commoner, the cost of 2 strings of money a day was a huge burden. A normal family would not be able to afford it. Not only did that assassin bear it, but he also persisted for more than a year. It was enough to show that he must have a powerful backer. All right, this prince knows everything. In the future, please help me find out more about this person's background. It would be even better if you know where this person lives. After coming back to his senses, Li Tai looked at Xiao Bao and said in a deep voice, "Yes, Your Highness's words. Xiao Bao will definitely pass it on to my master." But the little medicine boy cupped his hands and then scratched his head in embarrassment. He wanted to say something, but stopped. "But what?" Seeing this, Li Tai asked subconsciously. The little medicine boy hesitated for a moment. In the end, he seemed to have made up his mind and said, "But Xiao Bao saw on the notice that anyone who provides useful clues will be rewarded with 100 strings of money. I don't know if the clue I provided is considered a useful clue." It turned out that the little medicine boy's main purpose was to provide clues. His main purpose was to ask for the reward. Hearing this, everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As the Bing province provincial governor, Wang Liaoyuan posted the notice in the name of the provincial governor's office. At this moment, he stood up and said to the little medicine boy, "Haha, the clue you provided is naturally useful. In a while, I will get someone to bring you to receive your reward." The little medicine boy was overjoyed and quickly bowed to Wang Liaoyuan. "Thank you, provincial governor." This enthusiasm was completely different from when he answered Li Tai's question. It was as if he was a completely different person. It was as if he had money, he was the boss. Seeing this, Li Tai couldn't help but say, "No wonder Mr. Gongsun didn't come. It turns out that you want to earn some pocket money from the provincial governor's office." This was originally a joke. In Li Tai's opinion, such an important matter should be handled by Gongsun Liang himself. Now that only the little medicine boy came, it was very likely that the little medicine boy saw the reward notice and wanted to earn some pocket money. So, he secretly came alone behind Gongsun Liang's back, who knew that this sentence seemed to annoy Wang Liaoyuan. Chapter 1895, Reward. Chapter 1916, Zhao Tuberculosis Prescription. A moment later, in the back hall of the provincial governor's mansion, a handsome young man with resolute facial features stood in front of Wang Liaoyuan and Fang Gongting. Holding his chin, he asked thoughtfully, "I wonder if Provincial Governor Wang and Adjunct Fang have heard of Zhao Dian before." Generally, this official has never heard of this person. Wang Liaoyuan thought for a few moments before shaking his head. This general has also never heard of him. Fang Gongting frowned and shook his head. This young man was none other than Li Junxian. When Li Tai's group had left the courier station for the Yamen, Li Junxian had been following them from a distance. Not even the Peak Chi transformation Dugu Feiying had noticed him, much less anyone else. Ever since they had entered Taiyuan City, Li Junxian had been secretly protecting Li Tai. He had not appeared to meet Li Tai primarily because he was afraid that the factions hidden in the city would notice. After all, someone had eavesdropped on Li Tai and Ink Chue's conversation at the courier station at noon. Li Junxian had no choice but to be even more cautious. After Li Tai's group left the governor's residence, Li Junxian did not leave with them. His primary goal was to understand what information Li Tai had gathered from Wang Liaoyuan. In a little while, I will send a message to Chang and have the 100 cavalry in the capital review the files and find out Zhao Dian's identity as quickly as possible, Li Junxian said after a few moments of thought. The 100 Cavalry Division was the Great Tang's most mysterious and elite spy organization. Although it had not been established for very long, it was filled with experts skilled in gathering intelligence. The files of the 100 Cavalry Division not only recorded the people and events within the Great Tang, it also had information on the surrounding countries, especially the Turks. Then I must trouble General Li. Wang Liaoyuan clasped his hands at Li Junxian. After all, Li Er had given him a deadline of 3 days to find out Zhao Dian's identity. Li Junxian was helping him. Governor Wang is too polite, Li Junxian indifferently replied. He then turned to Fang Gongting and said, Advisor Fang, since we already know that the assassin the Imperial Army captured this afternoon has a severely ill mother, the scope of our investigation has been greatly reduced. Today, the soldiers of the Bing Province barracks are searching the entire city. After Adjunct Fang returns to the barracks, you can ask the soldiers who participated in the search today to recall whether or not they encountered any elders with tuberculosis in their homes. I believe there will definitely be some results. Hearing this, Fang Gongting's eyes lit up. He nodded and said, General Li is right. After this general returns to the camp, I will immediately gather all the generals to inquire. Fang Gongting was temporarily acting as the commandant of the Bing Province Army. Although in terms of rank, Li Junxian was on the same level as him, and there was no direct relationship between them, Li Junxian was still the commander of the 100 Cavalry Division and an official of the capital. Even Wang Liaoyuan treated him with respect, so how could he dare to act rashly? Moreover, Li Junxian's suggestion truly was feasible. If he could find out the assassin's identity through this method, he would have done a great service. So how could he not agree? Li Junxian nodded and said, Tuberculosis is not a common disease, and ordinary people can't last very long with it. Thus, once we find out if there are any families in the city that suffer from this disease, I must trouble Advisor Fang to immediately send men to investigate to prevent any undue delay. Undue delay? General Li is worried. Fang Gongting's heart trembled as he sternly asked. Li Junxian nodded and said, Correct. The power behind this assassin is extraordinary. It is possible that the other party will send someone to kill him or hide him. Li Junxian did not directly voice his suspicions about the Wang clan. Firstly, he had no evidence, and secondly, this matter involved the Wang clan, so he did not completely trust Fang Gongting and Wang Liaoyuan. Fang Gongting solemnly clasped his fist and said, This Fang understands. This one will return to the barracks and gather the officers to investigate. If there are any suspicious targets, this Fang will personally bring men to investigate. This one will take his leave first. Advisor Fang, take care. Wang Liaoyuan and Li Junxian clasped their fists to Fang Gongting in return, and Fang Gongting left. Only Wang Liaoyuan and Fang Gongting were left in the room. Since Governor Wang is busy, this general will not disturb you any longer. If Governor Wang wishes to find me in the future, you can send men to the second residence on the east side of Tongfu Inn. Through their conversation just now, Li Junxian knew that Li Er had given Wang Liaoyuan another imperial decree. Wang Liaoyuan would be very busy in the coming days, So he clasped his fist and bid farewell. But before leaving, he told Wang Liaoyuan where the 100 cavalry were staying in the city. After all, he was only protecting Li Tai from the shadows, so he did not know the latest reports that Li Tai had received. Moreover, he could not have too much contact with Li Tai, so he could only keep in contact with Wang Liaoyuan and exchange intelligence at any time. Okay, this official will remember. Wang Liaoyuan silently noted down the order and clasped his fist. Li Junxian left the room, jumped onto the eaves, and then vanished into the darkness. On the step, in Tuli's camp was completely different from how it had been during the day. The camp was a complete mess, and some of the tents had been destroyed or even set alight. Moreover, the ground was littered with severed limbs. This was a living hell. It was clear that this place had just been through a bitter battle. Tuli's old face was as dark as ink as he listened to Ni Shirtua's report on the casualties in the Tooth Courtyard. Tang Jian was also present in the Tooth Courtyard. However, Tang Jian's face was devoid of any expression. He was still as confident as before. Bam! After hearing Ni Shirtua's report, Tuli finally couldn't hold back any longer. He slapped the table in front of him and angrily roared, "They're going too far. These tribes have suddenly increased their offensive. Someone must have ordered them to do so. Are you trying to kill this Khan?" Tugu, Shelly Khan. Shelly Khan's full name was Ashina Tugu. Speaking to this point, Tuli looked at Tang Jian, who was sitting calmly below. A trace of anger flashed through his eyes. Soon after, he coldly said, "Duke Ju, we just released the news of the 7th month's frost this morning. In the evening, we suffered a fierce attack from various tribes. What do you think?" Tang Jian's face turned serious, and he stood up and clasped his hands to Tuli. Is Khan blaming this Tang for dividing the tribes? Tuli snorted. He didn't admit it, but he didn't deny it either. Indeed, in the evening, the various tribes around Tuli's camp had suddenly launched an extremely fierce offensive against Tuli's camp. This truly did seem to be related to the news that Tuli had sent in the morning to spread on the steppe, that Xieli has lost his virtue, incurring the wrath of longevity heaven, and frost will fall in the 7th month. But does Khan think that the great Khan will let you go if you don't follow this Tang's instructions and spread the news on the steppe? Seeing Tuli's cold face and silence, Tang Jian wasn't afraid at all. He directly retorted, "Forgive this Tang for speaking bluntly, but a mountain can't accommodate 2 tigers, and a country can't accommodate 2 rulers. The conflict between the little Khan and the great Khan has long been irreconcilable. Now that the little Khan is even besieged by the great Khan, shouldn't you give up the fantasy in your heart and face reality? How dare you?" After being angrily rebuked by Tang Jian, Tuli's old face was so gloomy that it could drip water. Before he could speak, Ni Shirtuo, who was standing beside him, couldn't hold back anymore. He took 2 big strides and came in front of Tang Jian. He said aggressively, "How dare you speak to the Khan like that? Believe it or not, I'll chop you up." Tang Jian met Ni Shirtuo's gaze. There was no fear in his eyes, but he didn't say anything to provoke him. It wasn't the first time he dealt with the Turks. He knew very well that when facing these people, the more timid you were, the more arrogant they would be, and the more they would look down on you from the bottom of their hearts. Now that he was the Tang Empire's envoy and represented the Tang Empire's imperial court, he had even less reason to bow and scrape to Tuli, Ni Shirtuo, and the others. When he encountered people he couldn't stand or didn't like, he wouldn't be afraid. He would just confront them head-on. He really didn't believe that Tuli and Ni Shirtuo would dare to do anything to him. At the very least, that would be the case until Xieli's troops trampled on Tuli's house. General Ni Shirtuo, don't be rude to the Tang Empire's envoy. The 2 men stared at each other for a moment. At this time, Tuli, who was sitting at the head of the table, finally opened his mouth. Ni Shirtuo snorted coldly, but in the end, he still obeyed Tuli's order. He glared at Tang Jian unwillingly and stood aside. At this time, Tang Jian looked at Tuli, cupped his hands, and said, What this Tang said just now may be offensive, but it's an indisputable fact. If the little Khan wants to break out of the encirclement, his only chance is to wait for the prophecy to come true and frost to fall from the sky. At that time, rumors will spread everywhere in the grassland tribes, and everyone will be in a panic. The Great Khan will be too busy to take care of himself, so he won't have the energy to encircle and annihilate the little Khan. This evening, the allied tribal forces around Yuting suddenly intensified their attacks. This shows that the Great Khan is already anxious. He's more afraid than anyone that the prophecy will come true. Tully's eyes slightly narrowed. After a moment of silence, he said expressionlessly, "Envoy Tang's words are reasonable, but this Khan has lost more than 40,000 men in this evening's battle. According to this kind of offensive, does Envoy Tang think this Khan will first wait for frost to fall from the sky or be completely wiped out?" In fact, this was the problem that Tully was most worried about. Upon hearing this, Tang Jian pondered for a moment. Then, he cupped his hands and said, "It's only 2 days until the 8th lunar month. Life and death will depend on these 2 days." This Tang believes that as long as the generals and soldiers under the Great Khan's tent unite and fight to the death, we will certainly be able to wait until the prophecy comes true. Moreover, although the Allied forces' attacks this evening were strong and our army also suffered more than 40,000 casualties, among these 40,000 soldiers, 50% were lightly injured, 30% were seriously injured, and only 20% were dead. This shows that although the tribal leaders under the Great Khan's tent have intensified their attacks on us according to the Great Khan's order, they haven't used their full strength. They even deliberately showed mercy to us. Because even a rabbit will bite when cornered, let alone a tiger. If we are forced into a desperate situation, the warriors under the Great Khan's tent will certainly fight back with all their might. As for those tribal leaders who are attacking us, none of them will be willing to bear our desperate counterattack. Under this kind of situation, they're more afraid of death than us. Therefore, this Tang believes that we will certainly be able to hold on until frost falls from the sky. Chapter 1917. If a lie was repeated many times, it was very likely that one would believe it. This was the case for Tang Jian right now. At that time, when he was in danger, he had to brace himself and bring a few guards to the prairie in disguise at such a sensitive time. At that time, even he himself did not believe in the prophecy of frost in July. But after telling Tully so many times, he seemed to have such a belief in his heart that at the end of July, frost would definitely fall on the prairie. To him, this was no longer a prophecy or a lie, but a fact. Just like the sun will definitely rise from the east tomorrow, it was an ironclad fact. Oh, do you mean that the Chigui and Hueha tribes did not use their full strength in the evening, and they deliberately showed mercy to us? Inside the tent, after hearing Tang Jian's words, Tully's eyes flashed, and he asked in a deep voice. In fact, before he was invited to the tent, Tang Jian had already made an extremely detailed analysis of the battle in the evening. At this time, he could be said to have a card up his sleeve, because he saw more things behind the casualty figures. Hearing Tully's question, Tang Jian cupped his hands and said, "This time, the Great Khan has mobilized 300,000 elite soldiers from the Chigui and Hueha tribes to encircle us. Not to mention the other tribes, just the Chigui and Hueha tribes alone. How elite are their troops?" This Tang doesn't need to say. Little Khan must be clear in his heart. If these two armies had attacked with all their might and showed no mercy, does the Little Khan think that you would have only lost 40,000 soldiers in today's battle? Moreover, among these 40,000 casualties, would only 20% have died in the battle? After listening to Tang Jian's analysis, Tully and Ni Shirta also came back to their senses. They looked at each other, and Ni Shirta nodded imperceptibly at Tully, indicating that Tang Jian's analysis was indeed reasonable. Seeing this, Tang Jian continued. In this Tang's opinion, the Great Khan must have heard the rumors circulating among the tribes and exerted pressure on the leaders of the 10 tribes for the Great Khan to see. The battle in this evening was a show for the Great Khan, which is why this battle is several times more intense and tragic than the previous ones. However, these 10 tribes may not be of the same mind as the Great Khan. The leaders of each tribe have to consider the interests of their own tribes. No one is willing to push the warriors under the Little Khan's banner into a corner, leading to our desperate counterattack and the heavy losses of the enemy's warriors. If the Chigwe and Hueha tribes are like this, then the other tribes must be like this as well. They are actually the same as us, waiting for the prophecy of frost to come true. Till he sat on the seat of honor with a contemplative look on his face. After Tang Jian finished speaking, he said, "Envoy Tang's words aren't without reason. In that case, General Nij, in the next 2 days, we will work together and gather all the warriors of the tribes to resist the aggressive attack." Tang Jian's analysis was reasonable and well-founded in Tuli's ears. In addition, he did receive news at noon that Xieli had summoned the leaders of the 10 tribes to the royal court for a discussion. This was simply the same as Tang Jian's conjecture. With the two as evidence, Tang Jian's analysis was even more credible. Yes, this subordinate obeys. With a solemn expression, Jita placed one hand on his chest and bowed to Tuli. The fierce battle in the evening must have frightened Envoy Tang. General Nij, send someone to bring Envoy Tang to rest. Envoy Tang is this Khan's honored guest. Remember to let the people below treat him well. At this time, Tuli looked at Tang Jian and spoke again. Yes, Tuan knew that Tuli was asking him to leave. He responded and came to Tang Jian's side. Extending his hand, he made a pleased gesture and said, "Duke Ju, this way please." Tang Jian secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he said lightly, "There's no need to trouble General Nij. This Tang knows the way back to the tent. Farewell." After saying that, Tang Jian lifted his feet and walked out of the tent. Chapter 1918. General Fei Ying, where is the assassin you caught in the afternoon? While Fang Gongting was preparing to lead the troops out of the camp, Li Tai and the rest had already returned to the post house. As soon as they stepped through the door, Li Tai turned to Dugu, Fei Ying, and asked. When he returned from Dragon Mountain in the afternoon, he wanted to interrogate Star Wolf and get some clues from him. However, because he met Han Lijing halfway, his plan was disrupted. However, the information he got from the provincial governor's office made him more confident in interrogating Star Wolf. Your Highness, the assassin is in the torture chamber. Dugu Fei Ying was stunned for a moment before replying. Good, bring me there. I want to interrogate him tonight. Li Tai ordered. There was a hint of excitement in his voice. After all, he was a prince. Even though he had joined the Yanhuang Academy last year, he rarely had the opportunity to come into contact with matters related to the investigation of cases. Previously, he had exposed the scam of the Venerable Du Yi of the Heavenly Dragon sect and the Ice Needle murder case, which was one of the proudest experiences of Li Tai. Although Taiyuan City was now in crisis, wasn't it similar to the crisis of the Heavenly Dragon sect in Chang'an City? This caused Li Tai, the prince, to feel a little excited, and even a little impatient. If Li Zishuan knew what Li Tai was thinking, he would definitely say, rich people like to seek excitement. Your Highness, you mustn't. Your body is priceless. How can you go to that kind of place? Moreover, the assassin's martial arts is very strong. What if? Dugu Fei Ying was shocked and wanted to stop him, but Li Tai interrupted him. General Fei Ying, you don't have to say anymore. Since the assassin has been caught by you, how can he harm me in our territory? Now that we are in a passive position in the city, we must find a breakthrough from this assassin. Quickly bring me to the torture chamber. Yes, Your Highness. Dugu Fei Ying hesitated for a moment. With him by his side and the assassin's hands and feet tied, Li Tai's safety was not too much to worry about. Thus, he nodded in agreement. Chinke, I'll go with you. Iron Egg said, All right, old Master Han, come along too. In the end, Dugu Fei Ying, Li Tai, Iron Egg, and Han Lijing walked towards the temporary cell in the post house. With a creak, the cell door opened. Star Wolf was still hanging his head on the rack. as if he didn't care who or what had entered. Dugu Fang asked one of the guards in the room. He still hasn't said anything? The guard replied, yes. General, this bastard still refuses to say a word. And he hasn't drunk a single drop of water since he was caught. Dugu Fang frowned. Who told you to do this? This guy has an important clue. If he starves to death, we will have one less clue. Which one of you can bear the responsibility? Dugu Fang subconsciously thought that the guards were abusing the prisoner and wanted to starve him to death. Who knew that the guard had a bitter expression and said, General, it's not that we don't want to feed him water, but this guy is too stubborn. He won't open his mouth when we feed him. Even if we force it open, he won't swallow it. In the end, he even spat it out. Dugu Fang was stunned, but he quickly reacted. He looked at Starwolf and said coldly, it seems like this guy is bent on death and wants to starve himself to death. At this point, he couldn't help but sigh. This guy was indeed a ruthless person. Oh, it should be a werewolf. But he was more than a ruthless person. He didn't make a sound when he was being tortured, and he didn't open his mouth even though he was being fed water. Only a specially trained assassin could be so ruthless to himself. All right, I got it. You guys go out and stand guard. Without my orders, no one is to approach the cell. After lamenting for a while, Dugu Fang ordered the two guards in the room. Chapter 1919. Wong Family Ancestral Home. In the pitch-black night, a black figure scurried out from the second branch's courtyard and headed straight for the back door of the Wong family ancestral home. At this moment, the Wong family's back door was naturally locked, but this wasn't a problem for that black figure. The tip of his foot lightly tapped on the ground, and his entire person easily leapt up the wall, and with a leap, he completely exited the courtyard. The black figure was extremely cautious, and from the start till the end, he didn't make a single sound. It could be said that he was completely unknown to the gods and ghosts. But there was one person who had been tailing him from a distance, and this scene naturally fell into the other party's eyes. Family Head's prediction is right. The second branch has indeed made a move. It's finished like this, but Wong Li sneakily left the residence alone. He must be doing some shameful things. The person following behind the black figure was the Wong family Dark Guard's commander, Wang Chengwu. At this moment, he looked at the direction that the black figure disappeared in and muttered to himself. With light steps, he also leapt over the courtyard wall and followed after. After leaving the Wong family, the two of them, one in front and one behind, first walked along the streets toward the east for a while. At the junction, the black figure turned around and walked towards the south. Wang Chengwu didn't dare to follow too closely. The distance between him and the black-robed man had always been maintained at around 10 feet. Because the other party's martial cultivation wasn't much weaker than his, if he followed too closely, he would definitely be detected by the other party. At this moment, seeing that the black figure in front was about to make a turn, one must know that both sides of the street were commoners. Once the black figure made a turn, it would temporarily leave his vision. In order to avoid losing sight of the target, Wang Chengwu hurriedly quickened his footsteps and walked swiftly towards the junction. After reaching the junction, Wang Chengwu didn't immediately turn around. He lightly leaned against the wall by the side of the road, and then slightly tilted his head to look towards the south street. He saw that the black figure was about 50 to 60 feet away from him and was still moving forward swiftly, just like before. The target hadn't been lost. Wang Chengwu heaved a sigh of relief. After the other party had walked another 20 to 30 feet, Wang Chengwu then turned around and stuck close to the wall, following the black-robed man's position unhurriedly. Things seemed to be going very smoothly. But at this moment, the black shadow in front of Wang Chengwu suddenly stopped. Wang Chengwu's heart was alarmed, and he cursed inwardly. He used his eyes to quickly scan his current position, and it just so happened that he was near the steps in front of a mansion. In a flash, Wang Chengwu dodged and squatted on the side of the steps. In the darkness of the night, he was sure that even if the black shadow turned around, he would not be able to see him. Sure enough, just as Wang Chengwu squatted down, the black figure in front of him suddenly turned around. His pair of eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the thick darkness of the night. Everything on the entire street was taken into his eyes. Strange, why do I feel like someone is following me? Seeing that there was nothing unusual on the street, the black-clothed man frowned, and a trace of worry flashed across his face. After standing still for a while, the black shadow turned around and continued to walk south. Wang Qingwu squatted on the side of the stone steps. When the black-clothed man stopped and scanned behind him, Wang Qingwu didn't dare to poke his head out to take a look. From the beginning to the end, he squatted there and didn't move at all. When he heard the light footsteps on the street again, and the footsteps were gradually fading away, Wang Qingwu finally stood up slightly and poked his head out of the stone steps. But he saw that the black shadow had turned around and was walking toward the south. Wang Qingwu quickly stood up and followed again. Chapter 1920. Quick, move faster. In the dark night, a group of Imperial Army soldiers holding torches and riding horses rushed out of the post house. The leader was Dugu Feiying. Other than the Imperial Army soldiers, there was also Han Lijing behind him. Li Tai, Iron Egg, and the others were not in the group. In fact, Li Tai wanted to go with them to Baoxing Square. However, Dugu Feiying suggested that Li Tai stay in the post house on the grounds that it was unsafe at night. Han Lijing, Iron Egg, and the others also persuaded him. In the end, Li Tai had no choice but to give up the idea and stay in the post house with Iron Egg. The truth was just as Dugu Feiying said. In this era, there were no neon lights or street lamps. Once night fell and there was no moon, the streets would be pitch black. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult to guard against an ambush or a sneak attack. Zhang Dafu, lead the way to Baoxing Square. After leaving the post house, Dugu Hexen shouted loudly. After all, he was not a local of Taiyuan. In addition, it was nighttime. If no one led the way, it would be difficult to find Baoxing Square. Yes, a soldier answered and walked out of the crowd to Dugu Feiying's side. He was only half a horse's length ahead of Dugu Feiying. The group of people rushed toward the south of the city. However, because it was nighttime and the light was not good, they did not dare to move as fast as they did during the day. Otherwise, if they bumped into any obstacles, they would be thrown off their horses and easily cause a stampede. The commotion on the street inevitably alerted the people in the houses on both sides of the street. However, according to the curfew system in this era of big cities, the houses were all closed at this time. Even if the people heard the commotion, they couldn't go out to check. Only some of the people who lived at the edge of the houses could see a long fire dragon on the street through the windows on the second floor of their houses, rushing towards the south. At the same time, under Fang Gongting's lead, the soldiers of the Bing province barracks were also rushing to the south of the city. This group had more people than the Imperial Army, around 400 people. The fire dragon formed by 400 torches was even more spectacular than Dugu Feiying's group. However, the Bing province barracks was located in the northwest of Taiyuan City, and the courier station was located in the center of Taiyuan City. Therefore, in terms of distance, the Bing province barracks was further away from the southern Baoxing Square. In order to reach the southern part of the city as quickly as possible, Fang Gongting specially sent 2 men to clear the path in front of the group. This way, even if there were obstacles on the road, only the 2 men would be knocked over, and it would not affect the speed of the entire group. Speaking of which, if there was a moon tonight, they could take advantage of the moonlight to gallop at full speed without having to worry about bumping into obstacles in the dark. However, there was no moon tonight, and Fang Gongting could only use this stupid method to increase the speed of their group as much as possible. However, the speed of their group was much faster than Dugu Feiying's group. After all, most of the soldiers of the Bing province barracks had lived in Taiyuan City for many years. Their familiarity with the roads in the city was far inferior to that of the Imperial Army. When it came to traveling at night, they naturally had the advantage. Since Uncle Wang has never heard of this Zhao Dian, this junior will take his leave first. In the courtyard of the Wang family's ancestral home, Dugu Xian stood up and cupped his fists toward Wang Yu. In the evening, when Li Tai and his group went to the provincial governor's manor, Dugu Xin brought a few people to the Wang family. His main purpose was to obtain information on Zhao Diyin from Wang Yu. Chapter 1921. At this time, most people had finished their dinner and were preparing to sleep, and Zhao Diyin was no exception. However, after dinner, Zhao Diyin suddenly felt uneasy. He felt that he had missed something, but he couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he racked his brains. Thus, he sat in front of the desk without moving, staring blankly. Da-da-da-da-da. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves came from the north side of the inn. Zhao Diyin came back to his senses and quickly stood up. He strode to the window near the north side of the room. Tongfu Inn was located in the south of the city, and the heavenly room that Zhao Diyin was staying in was located in the northwest corner of the inn. After he opened the window, he saw a fire dragon running wildly on the north side of the street. The officials have been searching for an entire day. Why aren't they stopping at night? Seeing this scene, Zhao Diyin subconsciously muttered. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His expression changed slightly, and he said softly, "That's not right. Why would the officials send cavalry to search for people? Could it be that they're going to capture people?" Speaking of this, Zhao Diyin suddenly remembered the fire in the long alley in the south of the city in the afternoon, and a bad premonition rose in his heart. "Xianyi, Sky Eagle." Zhao Diyin frowned and shouted in a low voice. Although there was no one else in this room other than him, and there was no one guarding the door, he was trying his best to hide his identity now. If there were guards outside the door, it would be too conspicuous. The room next to the heavenly room was occupied by two of his subordinates, two of his most powerful subordinates. Although there was a wall between the two rooms, the soundproofing of the buildings in this era was far inferior to the modern era. Moreover, his two subordinates were martial arts experts with sharp senses. Zhao Diyin believed that they would be able to hear his words. As expected, not long after Zhao Diyin finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Zhao Diyin went forward and opened the door. Two men, one tall and one short, walked in. The tall one was Sky Eagle, and the short one was Xianyi. Xianyi wasn't short. He was the height of an ordinary person. The main reason was that Sky Eagle was too tall, so when the two of them walked together, he appeared shorter. "Guard Master, are you looking for us?" After closing the door, Zhao Diyin led the two to the northern window. The two bowed and cupped their fists toward Zhao Diyin. At this time, most people had already finished their dinner and were preparing to sleep. Zhao Diyin was no exception. However, after dinner, Zhao Diyin suddenly felt a little uneasy. He kept feeling that he seemed to have missed out on something, but he couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he racked his brains. Thus, he sat motionlessly in front of the desk, staring blankly into space. Da-da-da-da-da. Suddenly, a flurry of horse hooves came from the north side of the inn. Zhao Diyin abruptly came back to his senses and quickly stood up. With two strides, he arrived at the window near the north side of the room. The Tongfu Inn was located in the south of the city, and the heavenly room that Zhao Diyin was staying in was located in the northwest corner of the inn. After he opened the window, he saw a fire dragon running wildly on the street to the north. The officials have been searching for the whole day. Why haven't they stopped at night? Seeing this scene, Zhao Diyin muttered subconsciously. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His expression changed slightly, and he said softly, "That's not right. Why would the officials send cavalry to search for people? Don't tell me they're going to capture people?" Speaking of this, Zhao Diyin suddenly recalled the fire in the long alley in the south of the city in the afternoon. In his heart, a bad premonition suddenly arose. "Xianyi Tianying." Zhao Diyin frowned, and then called out softly. Although there was no one else in this room other than him, and there was no one guarding outside the door, he was trying his best to hide his identity now. If there were guards outside the door, it would be too conspicuous. But the room next to the heavenly room was occupied by two of his subordinates, two of his most powerful subordinates. Although there was a wall between the two rooms, the soundproofing of the buildings in this era was far from comparable to the modern era. Moreover, his two subordinates were martial arts experts, and their five senses were sharp. Zhao Dian believed that they would be able to hear his words. As expected, not long after Zhao Dian finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Zhao Dian went forward to open the door, and two men, one tall and one short, walked in. The tall one was Tianying, and the short one was Xianyi. Xianyi wasn't short, but he was the height of an ordinary person. The main reason was that Tianying was too tall, so when the two of them walked together, he appeared shorter. "Guard leader, are you looking for us?" After closing the door, Zhao Dian led the two of them to the window in the north, and the two of them bowed and cupped their fists to Zhao Dian. At this time, most people had finished their dinner and were preparing to sleep, and Zhao Dian was no exception. However, after dinner, Zhao Dian suddenly felt uneasy. He kept feeling that he had missed something, but he couldn't figure out why no matter how hard he racked his brains. Therefore, he just sat in front of the desk, motionless, in a daze. Da-da-da-da-da. Suddenly, there was a flurry of horse hooves from the north of the inn. Zhao Dian came back to his senses abruptly, then quickly stood up and strode to the window near the north side of the room. The Tongfu Inn was located in the south of the city, and the heavenly room that Zhao Dian was staying in was located in the northwest corner of the inn. After he opened the window, he saw a fire dragon running wildly on the street to the north. The officials have been searching for the entire day. Why aren't they stopping at night? Seeing this scene, Zhao Dian muttered subconsciously. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His expression changed slightly, and he whispered, "That's not right. Why would the officials send cavalry to search for people? Could it be that they're going to capture people?" At this point, Zhao Dian suddenly recalled the fire in the long alley in the south of the city in the afternoon, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. "Xianyi Tianying." Zhao Dian frowned, then called out in a low voice. Although there was no one else in this room other than him, and there were no guards outside the door, he was trying his best to hide his identity now, and it would be too conspicuous if there were guards outside the door. The room next to the heavenly guest room was occupied by two of his subordinates, two of his most powerful subordinates. Although there was a wall between the two rooms, the soundproofing of the buildings in this era was far inferior to the modern era. Moreover, his two subordinates were martial arts experts, and their five senses were sharp. Zhao Dian believed that they would definitely be able to hear him. As expected, not long after Zhao Dian finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Zhao Dian went forward to open the door, and two men, one tall and one short, walked in. The tall one was Tianying, and the short one was Xianyi. Xianyi was actually not short. The height of an ordinary person was mainly because Tianying was too tall, so when the two of them walked together, he appeared shorter. "Gar Master, are you looking for us?" After closing the door, Zhao Dian led the two of them to the window in the north, and the two of them bowed to Zhao Dian with cupped fists. At this time, most people had finished their dinner and were preparing to sleep, and Zhao Dian was no exception. However, after dinner, Zhao Dian suddenly felt a little uneasy. He kept feeling that he seemed to have missed something, but he couldn't figure out why no matter how hard he racked his brains. So he just sat in front of the desk, motionless, in a daze. Da-da-da-da-da. Suddenly, there was a chaotic sound of horse hooves coming from the north of the inn. Zhao Dian suddenly came back to his senses, then quickly stood up and strode to the window in the room near the north. Tongfu Inn was located in the south of the city, and the heavenly guest room that Zhao Dian was staying in was located in the northwest corner of the inn. After he opened the window, he saw a fire dragon running wildly on the street in the north. The people from the government have been searching for the whole day. Why are they still not stopping at night? Seeing this scene, Zhao Dian subconsciously muttered to himself. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His expression changed slightly, and he whispered, "That's not right. Why would the government send cavalry to search for people? Could it be that they're going to arrest people?" Speaking of this, Zhao Dian suddenly remembered the fire in the long alley in the south of the city in the afternoon. In his heart, a bad premonition suddenly rose. "Xianyi, Sky Eagle." Zhao Dian frowned, then called out in a low voice. although there was no one else in this room other than him, and there was no one guarding outside the door. He was trying his best to hide his identity now. If there were still guards outside the door, it would be too conspicuous. The room next to the heavenly guest room was occupied by two of his men, two of the most powerful men. Although there was a wall between the two rooms, the soundproofing of the buildings in this era was far inferior to that of the modern era. Moreover, his two men were martial arts experts, and their five senses were sharp. Zhao Diyin believed that they would definitely be able to hear his words. As expected, not long after Zhao Diyin finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Zhao Diyin went forward to open the door, and two men, one tall and one short, walked in. The tall one was Sky Eagle, and the short one was Xian Yi. If one were to say that Xian Yi was short, he was actually not short. The height of an ordinary person was mainly because Sky Eagle was too tall. So when the two of them walked together, he appeared shorter. "Guard master, are you looking for us?" After closing the door, Zhao Diyin led the two of them to the window on the north side, and the two of them bowed to Zhao Diyin with cupped fists. At this time, most people had finished their dinner and were preparing to sleep, and Zhao Diyin was no exception. However, after dinner, Zhao Diyin suddenly felt uneasy. He kept feeling that he seemed to have missed something, but he could not figure out why no matter how hard he racked his brains. So he just sat in front of the study table, motionless, in a daze. Da-da-da. Suddenly, a flurry of horse hooves came from the north side of the inn. Zhao Diyin abruptly came back to his senses, then quickly stood up and strode to the window on the north side of the room. Tongfu Inn was located in the south of the city, and the heavenly guest room that Zhao Diyin was staying in was located in the northwest corner of the inn. After he pushed open the window, he saw a fire dragon running wildly on the north side of the street. The officials have been searching for an entire day in the day. Why aren't they stopping at night? Seeing this scene, Zhao Diyin muttered subconsciously. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His expression changed slightly, and he whispered, "That's not right. Why would the officials send cavalry to search for people? Could it be that they're going to capture people?" At this point, Zhao Diyin suddenly recalled the fire in the long alley in the south of the city in the afternoon, and a bad premonition suddenly arose in his heart. "Xian Yi, Sky Eagle." Zhao Diyin frowned, then called out softly. Although there was no one else in this room other than him, and there were no guards outside the door, he was trying his best to hide his identity now. If there were guards outside the door, it would be too conspicuous. The room next to the heavenly guest room was occupied by two of his subordinates, two of his most powerful subordinates. Although there was a wall between the two rooms, the soundproofing of the buildings in this era was far inferior to that of the modern era. Moreover, his two subordinates were martial arts experts with sharp senses. Zhao Diyin believed that they would definitely be able to hear him. As expected, not long after Zhao Diyin finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Zhao Diyin went forward to open the door, and two men, one tall and one short, walked in. The tall one was Sky Eagle, and the short one was Xian Yi. Xian Yi was actually not short. The height of an ordinary person was mainly because Sky Eagle was too tall. So when the two of them walked together, he appeared shorter. "Guard master, are you looking for us?" After closing the door, Zhao Diyin led the two of them to the window on the north side, and the two of them bowed to Zhao Diyin with cupped fists. At this time, most people had finished their dinner and were preparing to sleep, and Zhao Diyin was no exception. However, after dinner, Zhao Diyin suddenly felt uneasy. He kept feeling that he seemed to have missed something, but he couldn't figure out why no matter how hard he racked his brains. Therefore, he just sat in front of the desk, motionless and spaced out. Da-da-da-da. Suddenly, there was a flurry of horse hooves coming from the north side of the inn. Zhao Diyin came back to his senses abruptly, then quickly stood up and strode to the window on the north side of the room. Tongfu Inn was located in the south of the city, and the heavenly room that Zhao Diyin was staying in was located in the northwest corner of the inn. After he pushed open the window, he saw a fire dragon running wildly on the north side of the street. The people from the government have been searching for the entire day. Why are they still not stopping at night? Seeing this scene, Zhao Diyin subconsciously muttered to himself. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His expression changed slightly, and he whispered, "That's not right. Why would the government send cavalry to search for people? Could it be that they're going to capture people?" Speaking of this, Zhao Dian suddenly remembered the fire in the long alley in the south of the city in the afternoon. In his heart, a bad premonition suddenly rose. "Xianyi, Sky Eagle." Zhao Dian frowned, then called out in a low voice. Although there was no one else in this room except for him, and there was no one guarding outside the door, he would try his best to hide his identity now, and if there were guards outside the door, it would be too conspicuous. The room next to the heavenly room was occupied by two of his men, two of the most powerful men. Although there was a wall between the two rooms, the soundproofing of the buildings in this era was far from comparable to the modern era. Moreover, his two men were martial arts experts, and their five senses were sharp. Zhao Dian believed that they would definitely be able to hear his words. As expected, not long after Zhao Dian finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Zhao Dian went forward to open the door, and two men, one tall and one short, walked in. The tall one was Sky Eagle, and the short one was Xianyi. To say that Xianyi was short, he was actually not short. The height of an ordinary person was mainly because Sky Eagle was too tall. So when the two of them walked together, he appeared shorter. "Guard master, are you looking for us?" After closing the door, Zhao led the two of them to the window on the north side, and the two of them bowed to Zhao Dian with cupped fists. Chapter 1922. There was no moon tonight. There would be no moonlight shining in from outside the room, and it was even darker inside the room because the lights were off. Wang Li could not see where the old woman was in the room, but he was a martial arts master after all. With his sharp senses and the old woman's breathing in the room, he could easily determine the old woman's exact location. What he needed to do now was to stab the dagger in his hand into the old woman's throat so that she would die before she could resist or call for help. This was the effect Wang Kuei wanted to achieve, to make Star Wolf's mother disappear without anyone noticing. As there was no light in the room, when Wang Li pulled out the dagger from his sleeve, it naturally did not reflect any cold light. However, after he rudely pushed open the door, he did not say a word. The old woman in the room also realized that something was wrong. At the last moment of her life, the old woman opened her mouth and said, "You're not little Chui. Who are you?" Wang Li's lips curled into a cold smile. He did not speak, but sped up and quickly stabbed the dagger in his hand at the old woman. The strong wind, caused by his rapid movement, and the cold air emitted by the dagger made the old woman even more certain that the person who came in was not the two maidservants who often served her. She instinctively smelled a trace of danger, a trace of the danger of death. She subconsciously wanted to call for help, but perhaps because she was too nervous, or perhaps because she thought of how her son had been running around and working hard to earn money to treat her illness for more than a year, she felt that she might as well die so that she would not be a burden to her son. Therefore, she clearly had a moment to call for help, but in the end, she did not say anything. She just leaned against the bed and quietly waited for death to descend. Outside the room, the maidservant little Chui was still desperately running into the room, and the dagger in Wang Li's hand was less than 5 inches away from the old woman's throat. It seemed that everything was too late. No one could stop the old woman from dying under Wang Li's dagger. However, an accident happened in this impossible situation. Whoosh! At this moment, the roof of the house suddenly began to collapse from the middle. Dozens of tiles fell from the roof without any warning. Wang Li subconsciously used his movement technique to dodge a tile that flew towards him. Then, he looked up and vaguely saw a black shadow descending from the sky. Wang Li was shocked. At this moment, he could no longer care about the identity of that person. No matter how stupid he was, he understood that something had happened tonight. The most important thing now was to complete the mission Wang Kuei had given him. As for the rest, he had to kill the old woman in the room first. Hence, Wang Li did not care about the person who had descended from the sky. His figure flashed as he continued to stab the old woman on the bed with the dagger in his hand. But right at this moment, Wang Li suddenly felt a gust of icy cold wind slash towards his back. Oomph! How dare you? It turned out that he had sensed Wang Li's actions. That person could not help but be furious. He pulled out the long saber at his waist and slashed at Wang Li's back at an even faster speed. His speed was much faster than Wang Li's. And most importantly, because the speed at which he brandished his blade was too fast, the blade that was filled with true qi already faintly carried a strong blade wind. If Wang Li did not turn around to defend, this blade wind would hit his back before he could stab the old woman, and he would be seriously injured. After a short consideration, Wang Li quickly made a decision. He decided to block the other party's attack first, and then find an opportunity to kill the old woman on the bed. He turned around like lightning and channeled all his genuine qi into the dagger. With a clang, the dagger made a metallic sound. Then he actually used the dagger as a sword and directly waved the dagger, slashing at the oncoming saber qi. Bang! The saber qi and the sword qi intersected, and there was a dull sonic boom in the air. Then, Wang Li was directly shocked by the violent eruption of true qi. In fact, before Wang Li took the attack, he had tried to overestimate the strength of the other party. After all, judging from the speed of the other party's saber and the strong saber qi, the other party must be a master. However, after this round, he found that he had still underestimated the strength of the other party, because the other party's strength was actually above his. Grandmaster middle stage. The other party was actually a martial artist at the Grandmaster middle stage. When had there been a strong man at the Grandmaster middle stage in Taiyuan City? At this moment, Wang Li's head was full of question marks, and his heart was full of confusion. Who are you? Wang Li was shocked by the other party's casual attack, and he forced himself to swallow back the blood that he was about to spit out. At this time, he raised his head, looked at the master who had descended from the sky, and asked in a deep voice. Now that things had developed to this point, he knew very well that he had no way to kill the old woman on the bed under the other party's nose. As long as he attacked the old woman, the other party would be able to seriously injure him before he succeeded, because the other party's martial arts strength was a whole small realm higher than his. Unless he was willing to risk being seriously injured or dying, he had no chance to kill the old woman at this time. But the problem was that Wang Li was not willing to exchange his life with an old woman. He was still young, and it was not easy for him to have the strength and status he had today. His life was not very precious, but it was definitely more precious than the old woman's life. Instead of risking his life, it was better to ask the other party's identity. If the other party was just passing by occasionally and meddling in other people's business, he could use the name of the Wang family to make him retreat. However, Wang Li was destined to be disappointed. Wang Li, can't you even recognize my voice? In the darkness, the man snorted coldly and asked instead of answering. Hearing this voice, Wang Li was suddenly stunned, and his whole person was stunned. After a moment, he finally came to his senses and said in disbelief, Wang Chunwu, it's you? You. Why are you here? Why am I here? I should be the one asking you this, right? Wang Chunwu sneered and continued, as the dignified second commander of the Wang family. Instead of resting at home at night, you came to this remote place to kill a weak old woman. Do you know what you were doing? You are making the entire Wang family unjust. When Wang Li heard this, he secretly cursed in his heart. If his purpose of coming here to kill was reported by Wang Chengwu to Wang Yu, then the matter of Wang Kuei and Wang Xinyuan colluding with the Turks might also be exposed. At that time, only a dead end awaited them. Kill. Wang Chengwu, don't slander me. I just happened to pass by and came to visit my good brother's elder. Who said I came here to kill? Wang Li's eyes turned, and his thoughts turned quickly, and he defended himself. Anyway, no matter what, he would not admit his purpose of coming here in front of Wang Chengwu. Wang Chengwu could not help but ridicule. Happen to pass by? I think you came here to kill to silence, right? During the day, the Imperial Army caught an assassin but the assassin's identity is unknown, so the provincial governor's mansion is looking for clues in the city. Could this house be the assassin's home? And you came here to kill to silence? In fact, this was just Wang Qingwu's guess. He wanted to use this to trick Wang Li. He was not sure if the assassin caught by the Imperial Army in the afternoon was related to Wang Li, and he was even less sure that this was the assassin's home. Wang Qingwu would never have thought that his guess was infinitely close to the truth of the matter. Wang Li's heart jumped when he heard this. At this time, if the lights in the house were lit, Wang Qingwu would definitely see his expression change. Nonsense. What assassin? What killing to silence? If you want to convict someone, you can always find a pretext. Wang Qingwu wanted to say something, but at this time, the old woman in the dark spoke. She asked anxiously, "Young master, what did you say just now? You said that my Cheng is wanted by the authorities? That's impossible. My son has always been honest and dutiful, and all these years, he's been working by the Wang family's second master's side. How could he be wanted by the authorities?" The old woman's words were nothing if it was said on a normal day, but to Wang Qingwu, it could be said to be a divine assistance. Wang Qingwu's eyes lit up when he heard this. He did not answer the old woman's question, but said coldly to Wang Li, "Humph. Family head's guess was right. Second elder is indeed related to the assassin in the afternoon. Wang Li, if you know what's good for you, then obediently follow me back to family head to ask for forgiveness. Don't force me to take action." Wang Li really regretted that he did not kill the old woman earlier. Otherwise, there would not be so much trouble now. It was impossible for him to surrender without putting up a fight. He sneered and said, "Humph. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. If you want to ask for forgiveness, you should go back and ask for forgiveness yourself. Although your martial arts are better than mine, if we really fight, you won't be able to get away with it." "All right, that's what you said." Wang Qingwu was furious when he heard this. He raised his long sword and was about to attack Wang Li when suddenly, a rumbling sound of horse hooves cut through the quiet night sky. Then, the sound of horse hooves stopped at the door of the house. Wang Qingwu's face was slightly shocked. Thinking of what Wang Yu had told him earlier, he hurriedly said, "Wang Li, if you follow me to family head to ask for forgiveness now, family head may spare your life. However, if you still insist on fighting with me, not only will you alert the neighbors nearby, those people who suddenly appear outside the door will also spread the news of this matter. By then, not only will you be finished, the entire Wang clan will be finished as well." Before coming, Wang Yu had told Wang Li that he must find out whether the second branch had anything to do with the assassin that the Imperial Army caught in the afternoon before the authorities arrived. After all, family scandals should not be aired in public. Now that there was a group of people from another power gathered outside the door, if the two of them did not withdraw now, they would definitely be completely exposed. Chapter 1923. The entire Wang clan is finished. Oof. So what? If you hadn't insisted on interfering, I would have completed my mission long ago, and I wouldn't have caused any more trouble. If the Wang clan is finished because of this, it's also because of you, Wang Qingwu. In the room, Wang Li's expression changed slightly. He had naturally heard the clamor of horse hooves outside. The mission Wang Kuei had given him was to make Star Wolf's mother disappear from the world without anyone noticing. But now, not only had Wang Qingwu appear at the scene, but there was also a group of unidentified people outside the residence. He knew that he could not perfectly complete the mission Wang Kuei had given him, so he simply stopped denying it and went all out. Hearing this, Wang Qingwu was so angry that he laughed. "Oomph, sophistry. It was clearly you and the second elder who conspired against the Wang clan, causing the entire Wang clan to be disloyal and unjust. Forget it. Now is not the time to argue about this. I will take you and this old madam back together. If you restrain yourself before the cliff and cooperate with the clan head to investigate some of the illegal things the second elder has done recently, the clan head might let you off. This is the only way out for you." He originally wanted to argue with Wang Li a little more, but time waited for no one. Seeing that the group of people outside the courtyard was about to enter, the most important thing for him was to subdue Wang Li, then take the old woman on the bed and leave this place first. It was not that he wanted to protect Wang Li, but if Wang Li was determined to go against him at this moment, Wang Kuei would definitely be captured because of this, but it would also implicate the entire Wang family. Wang Kuei wanted to investigate, but it would be best if the person who found out about Wang Kuei's illegal deeds was someone from the Wang clan. Only in this way could he make up for his mistakes to the greatest extent. In the future, when Li Er was convicted, he could also let the rest of the Wang clan off. As for the old woman on the bed, it was best not to fall into the hands of the authorities or the Imperial Army. Otherwise, their conversation tonight would be completely exposed. Haha, it's too late. Can't you tell? We're already surrounded. Moreover, not only does she know that I'm here tonight, but the two maids outside also know. Wang Qingwu's words did move Wang Li a little, but it was only a little. He was not willing to fail just like that. He laughed coldly, and then took advantage of the time when Wang Qingwu was listening to the movements outside. He swung his dagger at lightning speed, fiercely stabbing towards the old woman on the bed. How dare you, General Eagle? According to the assassin, this should be the house. In Baosheng Lane, in front of a dilapidated house, there were dozens of armored soldiers gathered. Each of them was riding war horses and holding torches. They formed a fan shape and surrounded the house. The leader was a burly man in casual clothes. He pointed at the house in front of him and said to a young general beside him, "This group of people was the Imperial Army who had rushed over from the courier station. Speaking of which, along the way, they had met a lot of guards patrolling the streets. After all, it was curfew now, and ordinary people were not allowed to walk in the city. However, now that the guards of Taiyuan City knew that the Imperial Army and Li Tai were in the city, they did not encounter much obstruction after Dugu Feng revealed his identity. There was even a warm-hearted guard who volunteered to lead the way for Dugu Feng. It was precisely because of this guard that they could take a shortcut, that they could reach Baosheng Feng so quickly. Chapter 1924. So it's General Fei Ying. Light returned to the room, and Wang Chengwu finally had a chance to see the situation in the room clearly. Seeing that Wang Li was killed by his blade, and the old lady's life was not in danger, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. However, after seeing the group of people who barged in, Wang Chengwu's heart suddenly jumped up. This was because the group of people who came in was the people he didn't want to meet the most. The Imperial Army. Wang Chengwu cupped his fist to Dugu Fei. Taking advantage of this moment, his mind began to whirl as he tried to think of an excuse that would allow him to extricate himself from the other members of the Wang clan and highlight the contributions of the first branch as much as possible. Needless to say, he really did manage to think of something. Tonight, the family head received news from the Wang family's disciples that the assassin you caught this afternoon had appeared in Baosheng Lane. Thus, the family head sent me over to check on the situation. Unexpectedly, when I arrived at Baosheng Lane, I saw a black-clothed man sneaking into this room. I hid on the roof to see what this person was up to. Unexpectedly, this person actually wanted to harm the owner of this room. In a moment of desperation, I descended from the roof and killed this person with one slash of my blade. Then you all came. Hearing this, Dugu Fei frowned. Although Wang Chengwu's words were logical, he still felt that something wasn't right. Because if what Wang Chengwu said was true, then wasn't this matter too much of coincidence? However, the most important thing now was to confirm if the old lady of the assassin they caught was here and was safe. As for the rest, it wouldn't be too late to talk about it later. And Dugu Fei expressionlessly nodded at Wang Chengwu and then walked to the side of the bed. Looking at the trembling old lady who was curled up in the corner, he squatted down slightly and asked, "Old lady, do you recognize this person?" As he spoke, Dugu Fei took out a portrait and unfolded it in front of the old lady. It was the portrait of Starwolf that was plastered all over the city today. That old lady was only an ordinary citizen. When had she ever seen such a scene? She had long been scared silly by the bloody scene in the room. She didn't seem to be able to hear Dugu Feiying's words. Seeing this, Dugu Feiying could only repeat his words a few more times and move the portrait closer to the old woman. Finally, the old woman caught a glimpse of the person in the portrait. Her lifeless eyes suddenly lit up. A moment later, she seemed to have recovered. She stood up excitedly and reached out to grab the portrait in Dugu Feiying's hands. She said excitedly, "Brother Dugu, Chang, this is my Chang'er. Why do you have his portrait? Where's my Chang'er now?" Cough, cough, cough. However, because she spoke too quickly, she couldn't help but cough again. Dugu Feiying's heart calmed down a lot when he saw that the old woman really knew the assassin. However, he also remembered that if this old woman was really the assassin's mother, then she should have tuberculosis. This disease was contagious, so Dugu Feiying took a step back and tried to keep a certain distance from the old woman. Then he smiled and said to the old woman as calmly as possible, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Auntie, do you mean that the person in the portrait is your son?" The old lady was stunned, then nodded and said, "Yes. This is my Chang'er. Quickly tell me, where's my Chang'er now?" Dugu Feiying was finally relieved after hearing the confirmation from the old woman. He smiled warmly and replied, "Auntie, your son is with us right now. For your safety, I need to bring you back. This way, you can also see your son while you're at it. What do you think?" Hearing this, the old lady nodded and said, "Good, good, good. As long as I can see my Chang'er, I can go anywhere." Dugu Feiying turned to look at the two servant girls at the door and said, "The two of you are serving this old lady, right? In a while, follow me and leave together. You can also take care of the old lady on the way." The two servant girls looked timidly at Dugu Feiying, who was dressed in martial attire. After hesitating for a moment, they nodded and said, "Yes, General." Dugu Feiying nodded his head in satisfaction. Then, he turned his gaze to the masked man on the bed. He frowned slightly and went forward to remove the black mask from the man's face. Then he asked in confusion, "Who is this man? Why does he want to kill you?" This question was naturally asked to the old lady. The old lady was still in a state of panic. Hearing Dugu Feiying's question, she was stunned for a moment. In just a short while, Wang Chengwu, who was standing at the side, walked over with large strides and said with a face of surprise, "It's actually him?" Dugu Feiying's eyes flashed as he turned his head and asked, "Who is it? Could it be that Commander Wang knows this person?" Wang Chengwu nodded with an ugly face. "I know. Of course I know. When we were fighting in the dark, I felt that the other party's martial arts were somewhat familiar, but I didn't expect it to be him. To be honest, this person is the second commander of our Wang family guards, Wang Li. He has always taken orders from our second elder. Now that he has appeared here and wants to kill this old lady, I think our second elder can't be separated from this matter. This is a serious matter. I have to go back and inform the family head as soon as possible. I will take my leave first." Wang Chengwu's idea was very simple. He couldn't let Dugu Feiying know that he knew Wang Li's identity in advance and followed the latter to the Baosheng Lane. Otherwise, the two of them would be suspected of having a common enemy. Only by pretending that they met by chance and didn't know Wang Li's identity in advance could he completely remove the Wang family from this matter and show the Wang family's crucial contribution in protecting the witness to the greatest extent. The only loophole in this excuse was that the old lady had heard his conversation with Wang Li. However, the meaning of their conversation was mostly ambiguous. Under the situation where the old lady didn't know the cause and effect of the entire matter, based on those few words, she might not know the pros and cons of this matter. Moreover, it was him who had saved the old lady from Wang Li's hands. No matter what, he was the old lady's savior. He believed that the old lady wouldn't deliberately mention these details to Dugu Feiying. In addition, even if the old woman told Dugu Feiying about the conversation between him and Wang Li, it would not be a big deal. After all, he had killed Wang Li and saved the old woman. This was an irrefutable fact. Just based on this point, it was impossible for him and the power behind him to be on the same side as Wang Li. Wang Li's life was the Wang family's pledge of allegiance to Li heir and the imperial court. It's the second commander of the Wang family's guards. Hearing this, Dugu Feiying couldn't help but be shocked. He looked at Wang Chengwu with an inexplicable expression in his eyes. Then, he nodded at Wang Chengwu and said, "Since this has happened, we should indeed inform the Wang family head. Commander Wang, please return quickly." Wang Chengwu clasped his fists at everyone and said, "Then I shall take my leave." After saying that, he seemed to inadvertently glance at the old lady. Seeing that the latter's face was still in shock, he felt slightly relieved and turned to leave. As for Wang Li's corpse, he definitely couldn't bring it back. Of course, he didn't want to bring it back either. Go. Return to the post house immediately. After Wang Chengwu left, Dugu Feiying waved his hand and ordered, "Clatter, clatter, clatter." However, as soon as his voice fell, a rumbling sound of horse hoof could be heard from outside the courtyard. Wang Chengwu's complexion changed slightly. He subconsciously thought that it was the hidden forces of Sourcepeak City, but after thinking about it for a moment, he realized that the entire city was under martial law now. Even if those people had the guts, they wouldn't dare to make such a big move unless they were tired of living. Thus, he ordered an Imperial guard beside him. "Go. See what's going on outside." "Yes, General." The Imperial guard received the order and left. Dugu Feiying, Han Li, and the other Imperial guards in a room guarded the old lady behind them with vigilant expressions. After a while, the Imperial guard ran back and clasped his fists at Dugu Feiying. "General, it's the Bing Province Barracks troops. There are about 400 of them, and they're right in front of the courtyard." "Oh. Someone from the Bing Province Barracks? Go, let's go out and take a look." Dugu Feiying's eyes flashed. He turned to the two maidservants and the old lady and said, "Help Annie out and follow me to the Taiyuan post house." "Yes, General." The two maidservants naturally didn't dare to disobey Dugu Feiying's orders. They bowed and accepted the order. "Barracks Fong." Dugu Feiying cupped his fists and greeted Fong Gongting as he led the group out of the courtyard. Fong Gongting had seen Dugu Feiying before. At this moment, he quickly got off his horse and returned the salute. He said, "General Feiying? You guys are? Oh, I understand. You must have heard the news that the assassin's mother lives here. That's why you came, right?" Dugu Feiying nodded. "Yes. From what Barracks Fong said, you guys must have heard the news as well. I wonder how Barracks Fong got the news. Tonight's events were simply too coincidental. Wang Chengwu suddenly appeared here, and even Fong Gongting suddenly appeared here with his troops." Dugu Feiying was really curious about where Fong Gongting got the news. Fong Gongting smiled and said, "Ha." After this, Fong returned to the camp. "I gathered all the soldiers who searched the city during the day and asked if any of them had encountered an old woman with tuberculosis during the day. I didn't expect that there really were people who had encountered her. In order to avoid any problems, this Fong immediately brought people here to investigate." At this point, Fong Gongting also got the old lady supported by the two maidservants behind Dugu Feiying. He asked, "General Feiying, this should be the assassin's mother, right? I didn't expect that even though we rushed over, we were still one step behind you." Dugu Feiying smiled. "Barracks Fong must be joking. You and I are both protecting the safety of His Highness. But since you brought people here, come with me and escort this old lady back to the post house." "Of course." Fong Gongtung didn't even think about it and agreed. "Soldiers, listen to my order. Follow me back to the post house." Chapter 1925. Gao Yong, Zhang Chong, why are you here? On the street outside Jingren Square in Taiyuan City, Wang Chengwu, who was hurrying back to the Wang clan residence, happened to run into a group of people heading south of the city. Wang Chengwu couldn't help but be startled when he saw the leader of the group, and he hurried forward to greet him. When the two men saw Wang Chengwu, they quickly dismounted from their horses and bowed respectfully. "Senior Commander, we are following the Patriarch's orders and following the secret signal you left on the road. We are heading to meet you." "No need. The matter has been resolved. Come back with me." Hearing this, Wang Chengwu came to a realization and waved his hand. "Resolved?" The two were startled, and then one of them asked tentatively, "Then what about the second commander?" "Dead." Wang Chengwu replied indifferently, and then impatiently urged, "There's been a change in the situation. Come back with me to report to the patriarch." Yes, Gao Yong and Zhang Chong cupped their fists and accepted the order, and then the group immediately changed from the rear to the front, heading toward the Wang clan residence in the northeast. Why are they going back? In the darkness, two armored soldiers were hiding in a corner, muttering to each other as they watched the Wang clan guard turn back. Just now, I seem to have heard them call out something about Grand Commander. Could that person from the southern part of the city be Wang Chengwu of the Wang clan? What is he doing in the southern part of the city so late at night? You're asking me? Who should I ask? The question now is, should we continue to follow them? Follow my ass. Can't you see that they're going back to the Wang clan residence? Let's go back and report to General Dugu. That's right. Then let's go back. The two stood up and headed toward the courier station in the north. Yes, these two were the two Imperial Army soldiers that Dugu Xin had sent to follow the Wang clan shadow guards. In the dilapidated house of Baosheng Lane, there was a soul-stirring assassination and rescue. After Dugu Feiying and his men left, everything returned to normal. However, two black-clothed men landed in the courtyard. They looked at each other, then entered the main house and began to search for something seriously. Their gazes swept over the furniture that had been knocked over, the tiles that had fallen from the roof, and finally landed on the bloodstain at the head of the bed and the deep knife mark on the wooden head of the bed. It's a saber mark. The other party pierced through a person, and the tip of the saber stuck into the headboard. Killed in one strike. His strength is above mine. One of the thinner men in black looked at the saber mark at the head of the bed and muttered to himself, It's just a saber seal, but it's enough to make you feel inferior. You're a Grandmaster realm expert." The other man in black, who was taller, couldn't help but snort. These two people were precisely the two most capable generals under Zhao Diyan, Xian Yi, and Tianning. Of course, the two of them were secretly competing with each other. Xian Yi looked at Sky Eagle as if he was looking at an idiot. Then, he turned his head to look at the long and shallow saber mark on the wall, and said indifferently, "Controlling a saber with chi and being able to condense it into a solid saber aura. This person is definitely a saber master, and his realm is definitely above the Grandmaster realm. In Sourcepeak City, I have only met one person like this." Tian couldn't help but become serious. He stepped forward and looked at the long and narrow saber mark on the wall. It was as Xian Yi had said. It wasn't a physical saber, but saber chi, which could also be called a saber aura. He turned to Xian Yi and asked, "Who is it?" Xian Yi turned and said, "Wang Chunwu, the commander of the Wang clan shadow guards. I fought with him during the assassination of Dugu Xin in the south of the city." Tianning was silent. Although he had always been at odds with Xian Yi, he still believed in Xian Yi's personal strength. If even Xian Yi couldn't defeat someone, then there was no need to talk about him. "There's a smell of medicine in this room. When we came, we saw the woman in the room being taken away by an army. Judging from their armor, there were Imperial guards and soldiers from the Bing province barracks. This means that the woman in the room is very important to them. Go back and report to the Guardmaster. I'll follow them and act according to the situation." Xian Yi saw that there were no more valuable clues in the room, so he walked out with his hands behind his back. When he reached the door, he turned to Tunning behind him and said, "Based on," Sky Eagle subconsciously wanted to say, "Why do you let me run errands while you do the work that might lead to meritorious service?" However, he swallowed his words. Putting aside the fact that there was a saber wielder in the Grandmaster realm who was more powerful than Xian Yi, even the well-trained Imperial guards and the Bing province barrack soldiers were not people that he could deal with. When they first arrived here, Wang Chengwu had just left. Then, not long after, Fang Gongting arrived with 400 soldiers. Therefore, the two of them didn't have a chance to get close to the room. They could only hide in the dark and watch as Dugu Feng, Fang Gongting, and the rest left with an old woman, 2 maids, and a bloody corpse. "Okay." Tianning nodded after hesitating for a moment. However, Xian Yi was already nowhere to be seen. A hint of anger flashed across Tianying's eyes. He cursed, F***CK. This guy won't steal the limelight again, will he? Although he cursed, he couldn't change the fact that he was weaker than Xianyi. As the saying went, one should do as much as one could. Right now, he had to obediently go back and report to Zhao Diyan. Chapter 1926. Escape? Now that Taiyuan City is under martial law, where can we escape to? In the room, Wang Kuei frowned and said helplessly, if they could live, who would want to die? But the problem now was that the 4 city gates of Taiyuan City were all closed. Even if they wanted to escape, they couldn't. Wang Xingyuan said firmly, Grandfather, we don't have to escape from the city. Aren't Guardian Zhao and the others trapped in the city now? But they can live peacefully under the search of the soldiers. As long as we take people to Guardian Zhao now, we will have a chance of survival. This guy want to go all the way to the dark side. But didn't you say before that Zhao Diyan was of low birth and unreliable? Even if we rely on him, we can only live under his roof and look at his face. Wang Kuei was a little moved, but he remembered their previous judgment of Zhao Diyan and shook his head. They came from the Wang family of Taiyuan and were members of a 1,000-year-old family. Zhao Diyan was just a local official. Even if they relied on the Turks, how could they be willing to be under Zhao Diyan? A Han? So they had been secretly waiting for a high-level Turk official, such as the Turk state preceptor, to come to Taiyuan City. Then they would fully surrender. Wang Xingyuan said helplessly, Grandfather, today is different from the past. Since we have been exposed, our lives are in danger at any time. The most important thing now is to protect our lives. As long as we are still alive and have people in our hands, we will definitely be able to make a comeback. Relying on Guardian Zhao is just a temporary expedient. Sigh. All right then, let's leave the mansion and find Guardian Zhao. Wang Kuei was stunned for a moment, then sighed and said. Wang Xingyuan hurriedly said, Grandfather, we can't go to Guardian Lord Zhao empty-handed. In my opinion, we should quickly pack up some gold, silver, and valuables, and then take the assassins that you have been cultivating over the years, as well as some of the secret guards that are loyal to you. Only in this way will Guardian Lord Zhao be willing to accept us. As the saying went, one would not get up early if there were no benefits. From a certain perspective, Wang Xingyuan and Zhao Diyan were the same kind of people. People who crazily sought survival in the face of adversity. Wang Xingyuan understood that if he and Wang Kuei went to Zhao Diyan empty-handed, not only would Zhao Diyan not accept their surrender, he might even sell them out to Wang Yu or the Imperial Army, because they had no value to Zhao Diyan. You're right. There's no time to lose. I'll gather my men, pack up my valuables, and prepare to leave. However, most of the assassins this old man has trained are not in the mansion. After we escape, we will look for them. After being reminded by Wang Xin, Wang Kuei came to his senses and quickly said. Then he shouted outside the door, Qizhe, immediately gather your trustworthy brothers and gather in this courtyard in half an hour. Someone outside the door immediately answered, Yes, your subordinate obeys. In the room, Wang Kuei knew that there was not much time left, so he did not ask Wang Xingyuan to avoid him. He went directly to the table next to the bed in front of Wang Xingyuan and gently twisted the vase on it. With a ka-ka sound, the wall twisted and turned, and a secret compartment about 1 square meter in size appeared. Wang Xingyuan, who was standing behind Wang Kuei, could not help but flash his eyes. A trace of surprise and inexplicable emotion appeared on his face. Obviously, he did not expect Wang Kuei to be so secretive. A moment later, seeing Wang Yu take out a large crimson box from the secret compartment, Wang Xingyuan hurriedly went forward to help, but Wang Kuei signaled him with his eyes not to interfere. Wang Kuei put the wooden box on the table and then said to Wang Xingyuan, Here's some gold, silver, jewelry, land deeds, store deeds, and servant contract that I have saved over the years. They should be worth about 40 to 50,000 strings of coins. There are some other things, but I don't think there's enough time to pack them up. Take these and leave first. Chapter 1927. Iron Egg. Why haven't General Flying Eagle and the others returned yet? Did something happen at Baoxing Square? In Taiyuan Courier Station, Li Tai and Iron Egg were sitting in a side hall, anxiously waiting for news from Baoxing Square. Seeing that it was almost 9 o'clock, Li Tai could not help but ask. Iron Egg frowned. In truth, he had wanted to go with Dugu Fing and Han Lijing to Baoxing Square, but his father had insisted that he stay behind to protect Li Tai. Before this, Han Lijing had already heard about how Iron Egg had disguised himself as Li Tai to attract the attention of some unknown faction in the city. In Han Lijing's view, given Iron Egg's personal friendship with Li Tai, as well as his own martial arts, he was the best candidate to protect Li Tai. General Flying Eagle is personally taking action, and my father is also there, so there shouldn't be any problems. Let's just wait patiently. Iron Egg was also worried, but he still spoke words of comfort. I hope so. Li Tai sighed. At this moment, a flurry of footsteps came from the gate of the courier station. The two looked at each other and hurriedly stood up to welcome the visitor. General Dugu is back. It turned out that Dugu Xian was riding a carriage back with a group of people from the Wang family. With the help of the Imperial Army, Dugu Xian got off the carriage and bowed to Li Tai. He asked, Your Highness, this general heard that you have already found out the whereabouts of that assassin's family, and that Flying Eagle has already led people there. Has he returned yet? On the way back, an Imperial Army soldier had reported to Dugu Xian. Thus, Dugu Xian learned that Star Wolf had spoken under Li Tai's interrogation, and that Star Wolf had an old mother who lived in Baoxing Square in the southern part of the city. Li Tai shook his head. Not yet, but General Flying Eagle and the others have been gone for almost an hour. If things go well, they should be back soon. Dugu Xian nodded solemnly, then said meaningfully, That's right. The Wang family is also making strange movements. I have left 2 people to monitor them. Tonight, Sourcepeak City should be very lively. Who knows, we might be able to uncover Zhao Diyin and the others who are hiding in the dark. Oh, are there any movements from the Wang family? Li Tai's eyes lit up, and he quickly asked, What is it? Could it be that this prince's previous guess was true? That there really is someone in the Wang family colluding with Zhao Diyin? In the evening, when Han Lijing brought the intercepted secret letter to the post house, Li Tai learned of the contents of the letter and guessed that there was someone in the Wang clan who was colluding with Zhao Diyin, and this person was very likely the second elder of the Wang clan, Wang Kuei. Dugu Xian shook his head and said, It's still unclear. This general only heard that the Wang family head had sent someone to follow a guard of the Wang family second branch. This general had Zhao Eru and Shun Quan stay behind to keep an eye on them. When the 2 of them return, the truth will be revealed. So that's the case. Li Tai nodded thoughtfully, and then he said in a deep voice, Although there is no clear evidence, this Wang family's second branch is definitely a major suspect. General Dugu, you have to send more people to keep an eye on them. This general understands. Dugu Xian cupped his fists in acknowledgement. While the 2 of them were talking, the sound of galloping horses suddenly came from outside the inn. From the sound of the galloping horses, there were at least a few hundred people coming, and all of them were cavalry. Li Tai said excitedly, It must be General Fei Ying. I wonder if he brought back the assassin's old mother. This prince will go take a look. Your Highness, please wait. Dugu Xian's expression flickered. They had only brought 1,000 Imperial Guardsmen with them from Chang, and they had to send a portion of their forces to Longshan and guard the post house. It was impossible for Dugu Feiying to bring a few hundred people to Baoxing Square tonight. And from the deafening sound of hooves coming from the street outside the post house, it was clear that several hundred cavalry had arrived. Although Taiyuan City was still under the control of the government, Dugu Xian still didn't dare to let Li Tai take the risk. He pulled back Li Tai, who was about to run out, and then shouted to the Imperial Guardsmen behind him, You lot, follow this general out to take a look. Yes, sir. The soldiers obeyed the order and followed Dugu Xian to the entrance of the courier station. They saw a long fire dragon charging towards them from the street. Just as Duguxan had predicted, there were about 400 to 500 soldiers in this group, and the cavalry at the front of the group was only about 300 feet away from Duguxan's group. As the sky was too dark and the other party was rather far away, Duguxan couldn't see who the commander was. "On guard!" Duguxan shouted in a low voice. At the same time, he gripped the sword at his waist. Although he hadn't recovered from his injuries and couldn't fight yet, if the other party really wasn't Dugu Feiying's men and were coming for Li Tai, he would have to draw his sword and fight with his life on the line. "Yes, sir." The Imperial Guardsmen behind Duguxan all drew their long sabers and looked at the fire dragon charging toward the post house warily. Thump, thump, thump. The chaotic sound of hooves came closer and closer, and Duguxan and the others were extremely nervous. If the other party was really coming for Li Tai, it would be very difficult for them to win as infantry. "It's Feiying." When the fire dragon was about 100 feet away from the gate of the post house, Duguxan finally saw the face of the commander. He sighed softly and turned to the Imperial Guardsmen behind him as if relieved of a heavy burden. "Don't be on guard. Everyone, return to your positions." "Yes, sir," the Imperial Guardsmen replied. They were actually relieved as well. In the courtyard, Li Tai and Iron Egg saw this and hurried out to welcome them. Duguxan didn't stop them this time. Although he still didn't know why Dugu Feiying had so many soldiers behind him, it was fine as long as he knew that Dugu Feiying was in that group. He had always believed in his brother without a doubt. Whoosh! A moment later, the fire dragon had already arrived in front of the inn. Dugu Feiying, Han Lijing, Fong Gongting, and the others all dismounted and came to Li Tai. They bowed and cupped their fists. "Your Highness," Li Tai quickly said, "no need for formalities." Is Adjutant Fong here too?" It was only then that he noticed Fong Gongting and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. "Your Highness, after I returned from the provincial governor's residence, I summoned all the soldiers who searched the city during the day." Fong Gongting cupped his fists and briefly told Li Tai what he had told Dugu Feiying earlier. Li Tai was enlightened. He then looked at Dugu Feiying and hurriedly asked, "General Feiying, how was it? Did you find the assassin's mother in Baosheng Lane?" Earlier in the prison cell, although Star Wolf had promised Li Tai that he would be willing to tell him the mastermind, there was a precondition. He had to bring his mother over and invite Sun Simiao and other famous doctors to treat her. Therefore, Li Tai still had high hopes for the results of Dugu Feiying and the others' trip. Dugu Feiying didn't disappoint Li Tai. He smiled and said, "Your Highness, fortunately, I didn't disappoint you." Then he turned and ordered, "Bring the ant here." Under the escort of 2 soldiers, the 2 young maidservants helped the old woman out of the crowd. Dugu Feiying suddenly thought of something and quickly whispered something in Li Tai's ear. Then he pulled Li Tai back a few steps. Obviously, Dugu Feiying was worried that the old woman's tuberculosis would be transmitted to Li Tai. Li Tai wasn't angry. Instead, he was in a good mood. Good. Bring this aunt to see her son and settle her in the post house." "Yes, Your Highness." Dugu Feiying quickly waved his hand and signaled the 2 soldiers to bring the old woman away. Chapter 1928. In a side hall of the relay station, Dugu Feiying recounted the scene that he had encountered at the Star Wolf family, as well as Wang Chengwu's explanation. After everyone heard this, they all revealed looks of contemplation. A few moments later, Li Tai's eyes focused as he said, "Based on the information General Dugu brought back from the Wang clan and what General Feiying said just now, this king believes that there's an 80 to 90% chance that the Wang clan second elder is colluding with Zhao Diyan. As long as we can capture him, I'm confident that we can find Zhao Diyan's hiding place." Dugu Xian nodded in agreement. "Your Highness's words are reasonable. Although there is no conclusive evidence, Source Peak City situation is special and perilous. This general believes that we should first capture the Wang clan's second elder and interrogate him. As the saying went, special cases had to be dealt with in a special way. In normal times, if the second elder of the Wang clan had done something that violated the laws of the Great Tang, the authorities would not have dared to arrest him without solid evidence. But things were different now. Zhao Dian and the other Turkic spies in Sourcepeak City were threatening the safety of the city, and Wang Kuei, the second elder of the Wang clan, was colluding with Zhao Dian. Even if there was no evidence, they still needed to arrest him. It was better to kill the wrong person than to leave him alive. After all, Li Tai and the teachers and students of Yanwang College were all in Sourcepeak City. If something happened to them, the imperial court would suffer a massive loss. Li Tai's face turned grim as he stood up and sternly said, "Okay, since that's the case, General Fei Ying, this king orders you to immediately take men to the Wang clan and arrest the second elder. Afterward, you will be sent to the provincial governor's residence. We will work with Governor Wang to interrogate him through the night. As for the Wang clan head, if he tries to stop us, say that he's acting on this king's orders. When the matter is over, have him come to find this king, and this king will give him an explanation." As the person with the highest status in the group, Li Tai knew that it was time for him to make a decision. This order had to be given by him. After all, the other party was the second elder of the Wang family of Taiyuan. Although he had no official position in the court, behind him stood a 1,000-year-old family. If Wang Kuei really colluded with the Turks, it would be fine. But if Wang Kuei was proved innocent, the one who gave the order to arrest him would have to bear the wrath of the Wang family. Therefore, Li Tai did not make things difficult for Dugu Xian and Dugu Feiying, and directly gave the order. Dugu Feiying stood up and cupped his fists. Understood. With that, he cupped his fists at Han Lijing and Dugu Xian before turning to leave. At that moment, 2 imperial guards rushed in and saluted Dugu Xian and Li Tai. One of them said, "General, Your Highness, bad news. The Wang clan's second elder ran away." These two were none other than Zhao Eru and Shun Quan, whom Dugu Xian had left behind to monitor the Wang family's movements. Dugu Xian's expression changed. He ran? Why did he run away all of a sudden? What's going on? Dugu Feiying, who was about to bring men to capture Wang Kuei, turned back when he heard Zhao Eru's words. Zhao Eru panted. "This subordinate doesn't know either. We followed the Wang clan's guards all the way to the south of the city, but they met Wang Chengwu halfway and turned back. The two of us also turned back. Not long after, we heard a commotion coming from the Wang clan's ancestral mansion. Many guards were sent out by the Wang clan's patriarch. This subordinate asked around and found out that the Wang clan's second elder, Wang Kei, had led a group of trusted aides to kill the Wang clan's guards and escaped before we returned to the Wang clan. Preposterous. This Wang Kuei must have a guilty conscience, worried that Wang Chengwu would bring back evidence against him. So he escaped prematurely." Dugu Xian frowned, a little annoyed. Speaking of which, they were about to find Zhao Dian's hiding place, but one of the key criminals had escaped prematurely. No matter who it was, they would be depressed. After Li Tai finished listening to Zhao Eru's narration, he seemed to be deep in thought. At this moment, he opened his mouth and said, "It seems that the patriarch of the Wang clan and the second elder of the Wang clan are not on the same side. Otherwise, Wang Chengwu would not have stopped and killed Wang Li at the Triumph House, and Wang Yu would not have sent people to look for Wang Kuei with great fanfare." Dugu Xian nodded. "The Wang clan's patriarch can't be on the same side as Wang Kuei. This subordinate believes that he should be more anxious to find Wang Yu than we are." Dugu Xian had indeed suspected Wang Yu before, but after a series of events, he had long since eliminated Wang Yu as a suspect. Li Tai thought for a moment, and then a thought came to his mind. He muttered, "Wang Kuei's escape has confirmed the crime of colluding with Turkic spies. We can't rely on the Wang clan's power to find him. First, immediately send men to the provincial governor's residence to inform Provincial Governor Wang and the Bing province barracks to search the entire city for Wang Kuei. Second, this prince wants to interrogate that assassin. All signs indicate that this assassin is very likely one of Wang Kuei's men. He should know better than us where Wang Kuei went after escaping from the Wang clan." Chapter 1929. It's already dark, and it's not safe outside. Your Highness, why don't you stay in the post house and allow me to lead the men there? In the prison of the post house, Dugu Xian immediately felt that something was amiss when he saw the eagerness on Li Tai's face. Right now, it was completely dark outside, not to mention the fact that Zhao Diyin's men were still lurking in the city. Even if Zhao Diyin wasn't around, Dugu Xian wouldn't have dared to let Li Tai personally lead his men to the manor that Starwolf had mentioned. After all, that manor was filled with Wang Kuei's assassins and death warriors. If one of them was hiding in the shadows and suddenly attacked Li Tai, then the matter would be grave. Dugu Xian definitely couldn't take this risk. He would rather take the risk himself than let Li Tai take the risk. As expected, a hint of disappointment flashed across Li Tai's face when he heard Dugu Xian's words. The little fatty was used to a life of luxury and ease, so it was inevitable that he would like to take risks and seek excitement. However, it was mainly because he believed that it was impossible for anything to happen to him under the protection of the Imperial Army. Thus, he wanted to make a trip to the manor personally. Ahem, when did this prince say that he wanted to personally go? Li Tai coughed dryly and forced himself to say this. He then said seriously, "However, General Dugu, you are still injured, so it's even more unsuitable for you to go. In this prince's opinion, it's better to let someone else go." He hadn't forgotten Gong, Sun Liang's previous instructions. Although most of the poison in Dugu Xian's body had been removed, he still couldn't fight for 7 days. Han Lijing stepped forward and cupped his fists to Dugu Xian and Li Tai. "If your Highness and General Dugu trust this old man is willing to lead men to the manor." Dugu Xian and Li Tai looked at each other, and Dugu Xian finally said, "This junior naturally trusts old Master Han's character. Fei Ying has already led men to the provincial governor's mansion and the Bing province barracks, and I'm injured. This junior is naturally grateful that old Master Han is willing to make this trip on my behalf." At his peak, Han Lijing's strength should be around the peak of Qi transformation. Although he was injured on the battlefield and was now old, he could still hold up against those below the Grandmaster realm. Of course, the most important thing was that Dugu Feng wasn't at the post house, and Dugu Xian had yet to recover from his injuries. The Imperial Army's top fighting strength was lacking. So in this situation, Han Lijing was indeed the most suitable person for this trip. Han Lijing cupped his fists and said, "Then there's no time to lose. General Dugu, please lead a troop of soldiers and horses to follow this old man to that mysterious manor." Dugu Xian turned to Xinglang and asked, Wang Kuei's manor. How many assassins and loyalists are there? Dugu Xian's to decide how many men to send men to the manor, but Dugu Zes to the manor. Dugu Wang to decide how many men to send men's send there, as the send men's to send the men to send men to send. Wang Dugu Zes to Han decided how many men. T to send a men to go Wang's Wang's theirs. Ours T's have Wang. T's Li Tai Teet. S Chi Tes. T's S 120 people? Around the body refining realm to the Qi transformation realm. Hearing this, Dugu Xian immediately felt troubled. If what Xinglang said was true, then this team of assassins trained by Wang Kuei was completely comparable to an imperial army of the same scale. Of course, this was only on the surface. In a fight, a higher realm didn't guarantee victory. It also depended on the coordination of the battle formation. Zhao Eru. After thinking for a moment, Dugu Xian called out, "This general is here." Zhao Eru, who had run back to the post house to report the news, ran in from outside the cell and bowed. "I order you to immediately count 200 men and follow Master Han to a manor near Dragon Mountain." Dugu Xian ordered in a deep voice. Xinglang's words were very vague. He only said that most of the 120 assassins were between the body refining realm and the Qi transformation realm, but he didn't say how many of them were in the Qi transformation realm. If more than 50% of the assassins were in the Qi transformation realm, then the 200 Imperial Army soldiers he sent would have a hard time winning. However, there was nothing he could do about it. 200 men was the most Dugu Xin could send out. After sending out these 200 men, there would only be around 200 Imperial Army soldiers left at the relay station. This general obeys. Zhao Eru cupped his fists and loudly acknowledged the order. He then turned around and went out to count the men. Who is it? Han Lijing suddenly looked up at the roof and shouted. Then he pulled out the MO saber at his waist and threw it with all his might. The saber broke through the roof with a crash, and tiles flew everywhere. A large hole appeared in the roof of the cell. But at the same time, a man in black jumped off the roof and retreated, barely dodging Han Lijing's saber. Then, the man in black realized that he had been exposed. He hurriedly stepped off the roof and used the momentum to fly away. Han Lijing hadn't brought this saber from Yifan County. Dugu Feiying had someone prepare it for him before he went to Baosheng Lane with Dugu Feiying. He hadn't had time to return it after he came back. After missing, Han Lijing didn't have time to say anything else. He rushed out of the cell and chased after the man in black. Men! Follow Old Master Han in pursuit. Dugu Xian's face was dark. They had been in the cell for so long, but they hadn't noticed that someone was eavesdropping on them from the roof. Strictly speaking, this was his dereliction of duty as the commander of the Imperial Army. But in truth, this wasn't his fault. He had yet to recover from his injuries, and he didn't even have 10% of his strength left. His perception of danger was naturally not as good as before. If he hadn't been injured, this sort of thing would never have happened. The courier station was instantly filled with noise and people. An Imperial Army squad mounted their horses and galloped in the direction that Han Lijing had left. In the cell, Li Tai looked at the large hole in the roof with a thoughtful expression. Although Iron Egg was worried about his father's safety, protecting Li Tai was undoubtedly more important, so he didn't pursue. Dugu Xian was injured, so he didn't pursue either. Like Iron Egg, he stood guard by Li Tai's side. After about 5 minutes, Han Lijing finally returned. Dugu Xian hurriedly asked, "Old Master Han, how is it?" Han Lijing's forehead was covered in sweat. He shook his head and said with some shame, that black-clothed man's martial arts were very high, and his lightness skill was also excellent. I followed him for a while, but I lost him. Although he was at the peak of Qi transforming stage, he was good at fighting in battle, not lightness skill. Moreover, the black-clothed man's strength seemed to be above his. It was almost impossible to catch up. Dugu Xian was a little disappointed, but he still comforted him. That black-clothed man was able to sneak into the courier station and hide on the roof without us noticing. His strength must be extraordinary. It's understandable that Old Master Han couldn't catch up. Li Tai then said, "I guess that black-clothed man is very likely a spy under Zhao Dian. If he heard our conversation just now, Zhao Dian will definitely send someone to the Dragon Mountain Manor to report to Wang Kuei. Our men must set off immediately and reach the Dragon Mountain Manor before Zhao Dian's men. It's best if we can intercept Wang Kuei halfway. Your Highness's words are reasonable. I'll take my men to the Dragon Mountain now." Han Lijing nodded and cupped his fists. Just then, Zhao Eru happened to walk in and cupped his fist to Dugu Xian. "General, the men have been counted. We can set off at any time." Dugu Xian's face was solemn as he said in a deep voice, "Good. Zhao Eru, take your men with Old Master Han and Su Yunxing and set off immediately." "Yes." Zhao Eru cupped his fists and accepted the order. 2 Imperial guards came in and untied Star Wolf from the gallows, then brought him out of the prison cell. A moment later, a group of 200 cavalrymen, each holding a torch, rushed out of the courier station and headed south. The Imperial Guards and the Bing Province barracks went to such great lengths just for a sick old woman. Within the heavenly room of the Tongfu Inn, Sky Eagle spoke in detail of what he saw and heard in the house in Triumph House. Zhao Dian's brows knit together tightly when he finished listening, and he couldn't help but mutter to himself. By the time Sky Eagle's group arrived at Triumph House, Wang had already been killed by Wang Chengwu, and Dugu Feng's men had already brought Star Wolf's mother out. Thus, he didn't know much. He could only tell Zhao Dian what they had seen and some of Xianye's deductions. It was normal that Zhao Dian couldn't figure out the crux of the matter. You said that a great battle took place in that house, and Sky Eagle deduced that one of the combatants was the Grand Commander of the Wang Clan Shadow Guards, Wang Chengwu. Zhao Dian's mind spun rapidly. He closed his eyes and repeated what Tian Ying had just said a few times in his mind. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and asked Tian Ying with a deep voice. Tian Ying? Sky Eagle cupped his fists and said, Xianyi deduced based on the saber slashes at the scene. He said that he fought with Wang Chengwu in the morning. The only person in Sourcepeak City with such strength could only be Wang Chengwu. Wang Chengwu, the Wang clan. The Wang clan is also involved. It seems that this old lady's identity is definitely not ordinary. Zhao Dian nodded and seemed to be lost in thought. After a while, he came back to his senses and said to Sky Eagle, All right, I know everything. Wait for Xianyi to come back and see what news he can bring back. Sky Eagle brought back too little useful information. He could only deduce that the old lady's identity was special and that she was related to the Wang clan and the Imperial Army. However, it was difficult to deduce why the Wang clan was involved in this matter with just this little information. It would depend on whether you could find out more useful information in the process of following Dugu Feiying and the rest. Yes, your subordinate will take his leave. Sky Eagle was a little jealous when he heard Zhao Dian's words. In the end, he had really become an errand boy, and all the meritorious work had been done by Xianyi. However, who asked him to be weaker than the other party? With his strength, it was very likely that he would be discovered if he secretly followed Dugu Feiying and the rest. Chapter 1930. Father, where are we going? Also, why did you give the order to kill the gatekeeper? If Uncle finds out, will he spare us? In the dark night, a group of more than 40 people was being led by 3 men on horseback. They were rushing towards the southwest of Taiyuan City. For the sake of concealment, only a few people at the front of the group were holding torches. The people at the back were following the footsteps of the people in front. At this time, the middle-aged man at the front of the group turned his head and asked the old man beside him, If we don't kill the gatekeeper, how will we escape? Right now, our only chance of survival is to escape from the Wang family. The old man replied snappily. The old man was Wang Kuei, the one who had killed the gatekeeper and escaped from the Wang family's ancestral home. The 2 people beside him were Wang Hong and Wang Xinyuan. When they had fled from the Wang family, they had fled in such a hurry that Wang Kuei had not explained anything to Wang Hong. So even now, Wang Hong was still in a state of confusion. He didn't even know why his father wanted to bring him away. However, the moment Wang Kuei gave the order to kill the guards at the Wang family's back door, Wang Hong had already realized that they had caused trouble. In the future, it would be very difficult for them to return to the Wang family. Escape? Father, we didn't do anything wrong, so why do we have to escape? Wang Hong asked in confusion after hearing Wang Kuei's words. Wang Kuei paused for a moment, then sighed deeply. That's right. We didn't do anything wrong. This old man just wants to take control of the Wang family and restore the Wang family to its former glory as a 1,000-year-old clan. Wang Hong felt that the first half of this sentence was quite normal, but the second half. When Wang Hong heard this, he was so frightened that he almost fell off his horse. What? Father, you want the second branch to take control of the clan? Are you trying to rebel against Uncle and Big Brother? Our second branch hasn't had to worry about food and drink all these years. Why do you want to take control of the clan instead of living a good life? Wang Hong was a typical scion of an aristocratic family. He only wanted to live a comfortable life with the Wang family as his backing. With the Wang family as his backing, not only would he not have to worry about food and drink, but he would also be able to do whatever he wanted in Sourcepeak City. As for the position of patriarch and authority in the clan, what did that have to do with him? He had never cared about it. Of course, as the saying goes, no one knows a son better than his father. It was precisely because Wang Kuei knew that his son was unambitious that Wang Kuei did not involve Wang Hong in the matters such as surrendering to the Turks and kidnapping Li Tai, nor did he mention them in front of Wang Hong. It was no wonder that Wang Hong was so confused. Bullshit. Not only are you ignorant and incompetent, you don't even have the slightest bit of ambition. All these years, our second branch has been suppressed by the first branch. Wang Yu and Wang Renbiao have relied on their families' resources to become provincial governors of provinces. They hold high positions and power. Are you willing to submit to others for the rest of your life? Wang Kuei cursed angrily when he heard Wang Hong's words. He was exasperated that Wang Hong had failed to meet his expectations. Perhaps he was used to being scolded by his father. Wang Hong subconsciously shrank his neck in fear, but he still couldn't help but whisper, "Submit to others? I'm living a good life in the clan. I don't feel like I'm beneath anyone." Wang Kuei was old, so his hearing was naturally not as sharp as a young man's. He did not hear Wang Hong's whispers. As the group continued forward, Wang Hong said, "Then, father, in order to take control of the clan, what have you done recently?" "Oh no, what have you done? If we go back now and admit our mistakes, will uncle and big brother forgive us?" Even though the person in front of him was his own son, Wang Kuei still had the urge to beat him to death at this moment. He glared at Wang Hong and said hatefully, "You useless thing, I shouldn't have taken you with me." Chapter 1931. Big brother, second brother really colluded with the Turks? And even tried to kidnap His Highness King of Wei? What was he after? In the main hall of the Wang clan residence, the third elder still found it hard to believe that Wang Kuei would do such a disgraceful thing. The main reason was that he couldn't imagine Wang Kuei's motive, or rather, he couldn't imagine what benefit Wang Kuei would gain from this matter. Third brother, although no one saw second brother colluding with the Turks and kidnapping King Wei, all the evidence points to second brother. Now, second brother has led his men to kill the gatekeeper and escape from the residence, thus confirming his crimes. There's no need to explain this matter. The most important thing is to find second brother as quickly as possible, capture him, and send him to the provincial governor's residence. Otherwise, when His Majesty blames us, the Wang clan might be wiped out. Wang Bing sternly said, his face cold. When he had first learned that Wang Kuei had fled with his men, he had also been stunned, but when he came to his senses, he had been infuriated. After all, Wang Kuei had committed a disgraceful act, and now that he had fled, the rest of the Wang clan had to take the blame. In this situation, Wang Bing, the Situ of the previous dynasty and the previous clan head of the Wang clan, had no choice but to step forward and preside over the situation. Everyone in the hall scowled at these words, especially the third elder, fourth elder, and fifth elder. They had always been close to Wang Kuei, but this did not mean that they were willing to take the blame for Wang Kuei, especially when it was a crime that involved the execution of 9 generations of the clan. Wang Kuei had to be found. This was the common belief in everyone's hearts. Big brother is right. We must find second brother, Wang Kuei, as soon as possible. Apart from the ancestral residence, I remember that he seems to have another residence in Chui Su Fong and Ping Ruo Fong. I wonder if he will go there? The fourth elder spoke up in support of Wang Bing. He had been sitting at home, but the pot had fallen from the sky. In his anger, the old fellow had changed his address of Wang Kuei from second brother to directly calling him by his name. Wang Yu, who was sitting next to the fourth elder, said, "Fourth uncle, I've already sent people to these 2 residences. I'm confident that we'll have news soon." Obviously, Wang Yu had already guessed that Wang Kuei had bought this business before. Otherwise, he would have been the head of the family for nothing. Wang Bing's face darkened as he said, "There are records of the businesses that second brother has purchased outside these years. You don't have to say anything. The shadow guards of the clan have all gone to investigate. Think about it carefully and see if there are any other businesses that second brother secretly bought behind the back of the family." As soon as he said this, third elder and fifth elder, who were about to speak, swallowed the words that were already at the tip of their tongues. The hall fell silent for a moment. A moment later, Princess Tang and said, "Father, I heard that when second elder escaped this time, other than taking some guard with him, he only took Wang Xingyan and Uncle Wang Hong. Uncle's concubines are still in the estate. Since the elders can't think of any valuable clues, why don't we ask Uncle's concubines? After all, they're the closest to Uncle. Maybe they know something that we don't." Little Uncle. In addition to addressing the father's youngest brother, married women generally address their husband's younger brother as Little Uncle. Chapter 1932. Reporting to the general. This general followed your orders to search the fifth house on the east side of Shu, Renfeng, when it was dark. There was indeed no one in the house, but this subordinate found many weapons in the garden in the backyard. However, this subordinate does not know if they are the weapons that the government is searching for among the people today. In a residence near Tongfu Inn, a soldier cupped his fist and reported to Li Junxian. This soldier's name was Yin Gui. During the day, Li Junxian had ordered him to infiltrate the fifth residence on the east side of Xuanren Lane, the place where Kong Chang'an and Zhu Zeqing had been hiding, and search to see if he could find anything new. Li Junxian had given this order on a whim, as he had no idea what the situation in the city was like. He didn't have much hope, but to his surprise, Yin Gui had actually found something. "Oh, how many weapons are there? Where are they now?" Li Junxian asked, his expression shifting. "General, there are 7 swords, 21 scimitars, and some hidden weapons. This subordinate and my brothers have already brought back all the weapons." Yin Gui cupped his fist and replied, 7 swords, 21 scimitars, and some hidden weapons?" Li Junxian frowned and muttered, "Based on a number of weapons, the enemy doesn't have many people. But since Zhao Diyin dared to stir up a storm in the city and plot against all of Taiyuan City, he can't have just this much strength." This meant that the house was most likely the place where a portion of his subordinates once stayed. As the saying goes, a crafty rabbit has 3 burrows, and there must be many other places like this. This Zhao Diyin truly isn't simple. Li Junxian turned to another soldier and asked, "Zhao Kong, I had you send a letter to the 100 Cavalry Department to investigate Zhao Diyin's identity. Has it been sent?" The soldier cupped his fist and replied, "General, the letter has been sent. In addition, this morning, you ordered this general to take men to the north of the city to see if there were any carrier pigeons flying out. This general and my men stood guard in the north of the city until nightfall, but we did not see any carrier pigeons flying out. Should we continue to stand guard in the north of the city tomorrow?" Near noon, Li Junxian had led 100 cavalry into the city. After learning about the current situation in Taiyuan City from Wang Liaoyuan, he had determined that the faction hiding in the city was probably a Turkic spy. Thus, he had sent Zhao Kong and his men to the north of Taiyuan City to intercept the carrier pigeons. Li Junxian shook his head. "There's no need. We were too late. Zhao Diyin has already sent the letter." In the evening, he learned from Governor Wang at the provincial governor's manor that the letter that Han Lijing brought to Taiyuan was sent by Zhao Diyin. He then knew that his order in the morning was still a step late, because Zhao Diyin had sent the letter out early in the morning. When they entered the city, it was already close to noon. The timing was perfect. "Yes," Zhao Kong replied. Seeing that Li Junxian had no other orders, he stood back to the side. Zhao Kang's Zhao's names Wang's of the city was Zhao's Wang's Zhao Wang's have S's A's. "Lord General." Yin Gui cupped his fist in acknowledgement. After some thought, he asked, "Then should this general continue to search the city for other Turkic spies?" Li Junxian's brow furrowed in thought for a few moments, and then he shook his head. "There's no need. Taiyuan City isn't big, but it's definitely not small either. Searching aimlessly is like searching for a needle in a haystack. To catch bandits, first catch the leader. As long as we can capture Zhao Diyin, the leader of the spies, his subordinates will be captured sooner or later. General is wise. This general will send the weapons to the provincial governor's residence." Hearing this, Yin Gui nodded in response, then turned and left. Chapter 1933. Just who are you people? Why do you want to capture this old man? How dare you kidnap people in broad daylight? How dare you do such a thing? How preposterous! Do you have any respect for the law? As Li Junxian and the others approached the woodshed, they heard the bellowing of an outwardly strong but inwardly weak voice. Don't you want money? Release this old man, and this old man will take you to get the money. Let me tell you, there are some people in this world that you can't afford to offend. If my second master learns that you've kidnapped this old man, all of you here will die, and you'll die a very ugly death, and it'll be too late to regret it. Oh, I hear that someone wants this general to die a very ugly death. At this moment, Li Junxian pushed open the door and interrupted the man's clamor. In the woodshed, a middle-aged man with his hands and feet tied sat on the ground. This man looked very fat. His face was full of wrinkles, and his eyes were very small, typical of squinting. From afar, he looked like a Mithriel Buddha. In front of this middle-aged man were two men in martial arts robes, their backs to him. Laughably, even though this fellow had been hooting the entire time, the two men had completely ignored him. Perhaps because no one had taken care of this woodshed in a very long time, Li Junxian sensed that there was a strange odor to it. But interrogating Sun Dafu was more important, so he didn't care. The two of them were just about to step forward and bow to Li Junxian, but the middle-aged man's mouth was even faster. "Huh, a bunch of hoodlums who rely on kidnapping and extortion. What kind of general are you?" He had come to tie you in on this trip. Li Junxian and the 100 horsemen he had brought were primarily meant to protect Li Tai from the shadows, so they normally wore the clothes of ordinary people. This was why the middle-aged man had mocked Li Junxian when he heard him call himself a general. "Impudent! Are your dog eyes blind? The one standing in front of you is..." Seeing that the middle-aged man was speaking rudely to Li Junxian, one of the men in the room angrily glared at him and prepared to attack. But Li Junxian pulled him back. "Lin Jiang, stop." Li Junxian waved his hand and said, "One who doesn't know is not guilty. This person must be the shopkeeper of Tongfu Inn, Sun Dafu." Lin Jiang cupped his fists and replied, "Yes, General." Li Junxian nodded, and then he curiously asked, "How did you kidnap him? Why would he think that we are hooligans who kidnap and blackmail people?" Lin Jiang pursed his lips and replied in all seriousness. Replying to the general, "This general snuck into the inn when it was dark and happened to see this fellow going to the outhouse. This subordinate tailed him and knocked him out when he wasn't paying attention. Then I stuffed him into a sack and carried him back." Li Junxian was speechless. It's no wonder Sun Dafu thought you were a kidnapper. Your methods are exactly the same as those of a scoundrel. You still have the nerve to say that? This old man has always emphasized that amiability brings wealth, and I've never offended you. But a young man like you try to sneak attack me, an old man who doesn't know any martial arts. You don't have any martial virtues." Lin Jiang's earnest explanation had thoroughly infuriated Sun Dafu, but his words seemed lacking in confidence. Moreover, as he spoke, Sun Dafu clamped his legs together and leaned his body as far away from Li Junxian as possible, as if there was something he didn't want Li Junxian to see. Li Junxian naturally noticed Sun Dafu's little movements, and he curiously turned to Lin Jiang. Lin Jiang innocently said, "General, before this subordinate knocked him out, he hadn't finished peeing, so after I knocked him out, he immediately peed his pants." Li Junxian's lips twitched in speechlessness. Although it was true that he had ordered Lin Jiang to kidnap Sun Dafu, Lin Jiang's methods were truly rather lacking in martial virtues. If you want to sneak attack someone, you can sneak attack them, but at least wait until they're done peeing before knocking them out. Sun Dafu's face turned red, and he wanted nothing more than to find a hole in the ground and crawl into it. Of course, before he did that, he would have to drag this immoral Lin Jiang down with him. Enough. This general's subordinate was just following orders. Shopkeeper's son, don't get angry with him. Besides, who hasn't peed their pants in their life? No one will laugh at you. Li Junxian saw Sun Dafu's embarrassed expression and hurriedly tried to resolve the situation. Lin Jiang and the other soldier almost laughed out loud But when they saw that Li Junxian wasn't laughing, they suppressed their laughter. Sun Dafu glared at Li Junxian with hatred. If looks could kill, Li Junxian would have died many times over by now. But through his observations, he had realized that Li Junxian and the other two soldiers in the room truly were soldiers. Thus, even though he was furious, Sun Dafu was still able to restrain himself. Shopkeeper's son, I didn't invite you here today to take your money, but because this general has a matter to ask you. After a round of banter, Li Junxian turned serious and spoke to Sun Dafu. Invite? This is how you invite people? Sun Dafu glanced at the ropes binding him and sneered. Moreover, this old man has not committed any crime, nor has he broken any laws. You claim to be a soldier, so what right do you have to knowingly break the law and use such despicable methods to imprison this old man? Do you still have any respect for the laws of the country? When one couldn't win with their fists, one had to reason with them. Sun Dafu understood this, and he wanted to reason with Li Junxian right now. But Li Junxian had no desire to reason with Sun Dafu, because his fists were bigger, and more importantly, he truly had broken the law in this matter. He was in the wrong. Shopkeeper's son, there's no need to talk about such useless things. If you really did break the law, the one who captured you wouldn't have been this general, but the bailiffs of the government. Since this general had you tied up and brought here, if you don't truthfully answer this general's questions, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to leave this place alive. Sun Dafu's face instantly paled. He hadn't expected Li Junxian to be so direct and ruthless. He didn't know if Li Junxian really dared to kill him, but he didn't dare to gamble. After all, each person only had one life, and he greatly cherished it. This old man is just the shopkeeper of an inn. What could I know? If you want to ask, then hurry up and ask. Sun Dafu said, after a few moments of silence. At this moment, Lin Jiang brought over a bench, and Li Junxian sat down in front of Sun Dafu. He placed his arms on his knees and leaned over to ask, the second master you spoke of before should be the owner of Tongfu Inn, Gao Yong, right? Gao Yong is the second son of the Gao clan. He has an older brother called Gao Su and a younger sister called Gao Ping, the concubine of the Wang clan's second son, Wang Hong. It is precisely because he has managed to climb up the branch of the Wang clan that Gao Yong has been able to flourish in Taiyuan City. Sun Dafu's pupils constricted in shock. He stared at Li Junxian and asked, word by word, "You're investigating the second master? Just who are you? Just who are you people?" Li Junxian unhappily said, "My time is limited, so it's best if you don't waste it. Answer my questions, or else." Li Junxian glanced at Lin Jiang. The latter understood, unsheathed his saber, and placed it against Sun Dafu's neck. With a savage smile, he said, "Hey, shopkeeper's son, I recently learned a saber art that can remove the bones from a person's limbs without killing them. Do you want to give it a try?" Sun Dafu lived like a prince, so how could he possibly endure such a shock? He hurriedly shook his head and said, I'll talk. Take your saber away." "Humph, at least you know your place." Lin Jiang coldly snorted and then pulled his saber back. Sun Dafu nodded at Li Junxian and said, "What you said just now was correct. The second master truly is the owner of Tongfu Inn. Relying on his relationship with the Wang clan, the second master's business has been getting better and better, and he's opening more and more shops." Li Junxian nodded in satisfaction and asked, "Very good. This general will ask you again. This morning, did Wang Rini, the current Wang Xinyuan, go to your inn?" Sun Dafu was taken aback, a hint of panic in his eyes. Coming back to his senses, he hurriedly shook his head and said, "Wang Xinyuan? This old man has never seen him before." Li Junxian sat up straight and gave Sun Dafu a meaningful smile. Sun Dafu felt his scalp tingle, and when he turned his head, he saw that Lin Jiang was also savagely smiling at him. Shivering in fright, he hastily corrected himself. "Don't worry about me. Yes, young Master Wang really did come to the inn this morning." Li Junxian leaned over and asked, "Who did he meet at the inn?" Sun Dafu immediately shook his head and said, This old man doesn't know." Afraid that Li Junxian and Lin Jiang wouldn't believe him, he hurriedly explained, This old man really doesn't know that person's identity. I only heard that he's a good friend of young Master Wang and that he stayed at the inn yesterday. Moreover, the second master said that that person was an honored guest of his and would only be staying at the inn for 2 days. That honored guest rarely goes out and spends almost all of his time in his room. When he checked in, he specifically instructed that no one was to disturb him. So this old man still doesn't know that person's name. Li Juanxian's eyes flashed, and after a few moments of silence, he asked, "Is that person still staying at the inn?" Sun Dafu nodded. "Yes, he's still there. That honored guest is staying in the heaven guest room." Li Junxian calmed down a little. He stood up and said to Sun Dafu, "Shopkeeper's son, you'll have to suffer here for 1 night. Once this old man finishes his business tomorrow, I'll let you go. Don't think about running away. Even if you grow wings, you won't be able to escape. Moreover, if you're captured, this general can't guarantee that the brothers in the courtyard won't do anything to you." Sun Dafu's old face instantly became as pale as a bitter gourd. But the situation was stronger than him. So what else could he do but lower his head? Leaving the woodshed and entering the courtyard, Li Junxian muttered to himself, "The most dangerous place truly is the safest place." Zhu Zeching was just captured in the heaven guest room, and someone is already staying there. This person is truly skilled and bold. Zhao Kong. After sighing with emotion, Li Junxian shouted into the courtyard, and a soldier quickly ran over. "This general is here. Immediately head to the provincial governor's residence and have Governor Wang bring soldiers to Tongfu Inn," Li Junxian ordered. "Yes." Zhao Kong cupped his fists and left. Li Junxian called out, "Lin Jiang." Lin Jiang cupped his fists and replied, "This general is here." Li Junxian ordered, "Leave 2 people to guard Sun Dafu. The rest of you immediately follow this general to Tongfu Inn to capture him." "Yes." Lin Jiang cupped his fists and left a pass on the order. Li Junxian meaningfully whispered, "It's finally time to draw in the net. I hope that this is a big fish and not a small shrimp." Chapter 1934. At the same time, in the Wang clan ancestral home, as this matter concerns the survival of the Wang clan, this princess hopes that all of you will think carefully about where Second Elder and the others might have gone after fleeing the Wang clan. If Second Elder cannot be found in time, the Wang clan will be destroyed, and your good days will come to an end. In a side hall, Princess Tang and sternly reprimanded a group of beautiful women dressed in gaudy silk dresses. Behind her sat an old woman with a head full of silver hair. Her clothes were rather simple, but her expression was rather dignified. This old woman was Wang Bing's wife, Madame Yang. She had been born a noble in the previous dynasty and had followed Wang Bing through the vicissitudes of dynasties and the ups and downs of troubled times. She was the supreme matriarch of the Wang clan. Ever since her son Wang Yu took over the Wang clan, the matriarch Yang and Wang Bing had retired from the clan. She no longer interfered in the affairs of the Wang clan, but Wang Kuei had colluded with Turkic spies and fled in fear of punishment. There was a high chance that the entire Wang clan would be dragged into the abyss, and the interrogation of Wang Hong's concubines required a woman of virtue and prestige. As Princess Tang, and was born in the imperial household of the Tang Dynasty, her status in the Wang clan was rather high, but her seniority was still lacking. Thus, the astute Wang Bing had invited his wife to hold the fort. What Xiaorong said just now was this old woman's intention. When a nest is overturned, no egg can remain intact. If all of you still want to have a good life in the future, think carefully. If you can help the clan find Second Elder as quickly as possible, you will naturally be rewarded. After Princess Tang and finished speaking, Matriarch Yang, who was sitting behind her, spoke. Xiaorong was Princess Tang's nickname. In the entire Wang family, probably only old Madame Yang dared to call her that. When the matrons standing in the side hall learned from Princess Tang, and that Wang Kuei had colluded with Turkic spies and fled with Wang Hong and Wang Xinyuan in fear of punishment, they were at a loss for what to do. Back then, they had married Wang Hong, this softy, only because of Wang Hong's family background. Now that Wang Kuei had fled in fear of punishment, the second branch of the Wang family was most likely finished, and it might even affect the entire Wang family. As the saying goes, husband and wife are birds in the same forest, but when disaster strikes, they fly away separately. At this moment, most of the matrons were thinking of packing up their valuables and running away after returning to avoid being implicated when the emperor punished the Wang family in the future. However, there was still a portion of them who, after hearing old matriarch Yang's words, still had a glimmer of hope for the Wang family. Old Madam, the clan has records of the businesses and private residences my father and husband have set up in Taiyuan City. As for the rest, how would we know? Husband and the others usually don't tell us. That's right. Husband rarely tells us these things. As for the old master, ever since this concubine married into the family, I have only seen him a few times. Husband has only favored Ping, these past 2 years. Princess and old madam should ask her about this matter, right? Right. You should ask Ping. 3 women were a show, and there were now 6 or 7 women standing in this room. The chattering was so lively that it was like they were singing a show. Princess Tang and frowned. However, from what she heard, Wang Hong seemed to have only favored one concubine these past few years. Thus, she followed the matron's gazes and saw a petite, beautiful woman around 18 or 19 years old wearing a white silk dress. It has to be said that Wang Hong, this old fellow, is truly shameless. He's clearly in his 30s or 40s, but he still married an 18 or 19-year-old concubine. This is truly an old cow eating young grass, a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. Princess Tong, and had been living with Wang Yu and Suizhou these past few years. She had only heard a little about the second branch, but she had never seen this woman called Ping before. You are Ping. Seeing Wang Hong's concubines looking at one of the young women, Princess Tong, and walked over and asked the beautiful and petite woman, "Greetings, princess. This concubine is called Gao Ping. Husband has always called this concubine Ping." The young woman appeared rather nervous, but when she saw Princess Tong and come over and ask her question, she hastily bowed and respectfully answered. Princess Tong and nodded and then asked, "Pinger, second elder colluded with Turkic spies and fled in fear of punishment." From what Master has learned, Wang Hong did not participate too much in this matter. If you can help the clan find second elder as soon as possible, Wang Hong might be able to escape punishment. Think carefully. Did Wang Hong and second elder do anything out of the ordinary in the past few days? Or did Wang Hong and second elder secretly set up other businesses in the city that the clan is unaware of? Hearing Princess Tong and say that Wang Hong might be able to escape punishment, Gao Ping's eyes brightened. Although she and Wang Hong were an old married couple, just as those concubines had said, ever since she married into the Wang clan, Wang Hong had always doted on her. This made her feel love and warmth. There was still true love between them. If Wang Hong was innocent, the Wang clan second branch would not have collapsed, and she and Wang Hong could return to their previous lives. With this thought, Gao Ping frowned and began to seriously recall. After a while, her eyebrows trembled, and she suddenly said, This concubine remembers. Husband's behavior these past few days was normal, but yesterday, when my second brother came to the residence to visit me, he was dragged away by Xian Yuan. The two of them chatted for a while before my second brother left the Wang clan. Your second brother? Who's your second brother? Princess Tong frowned and asked subconsciously. Gao Ping said somewhat embarrassedly, My second brother's name is Gao Yong, and he's a businessman. He opened many shops in the city, and the largest inn in the city, Tongfu Inn, was also opened by him. Gao Ping was born into a merchant family. In terms of family status, Gao Ping and Wang Hong were indeed not compatible. However, after marrying into the Wang clan, not only did Wang Hong not look down on her because of her background, he even tried his best to protect her. This was also one of the reasons why she wanted to help Wang Hong exonerate himself. After introducing Gao Yong's identity, Gao Ping continued. Early this morning, Xian Yuan suddenly told my husband that he was going out to meet a friend at Tongfu Inn. Now that I think about it, there are too many coincidences. Yesterday, my husband introduced Xian Yuan to my second brother, and today, Xian Yuan went out to Tongfu Inn. I have a feeling that they are hiding something from me and my husband. Moreover, Xian Yuan was imprisoned in the clan for a year before. Now that he has just been released, why would his friend be waiting for him at Tongfu Inn? Wang Xinyuan, Tongfu Inn. Princess Tang, Anne's expression changed slightly. She had heard from Wang Yu that Wang Chengwu had found Wang Xinyuan sneaking out of the residence this morning. Unexpectedly, he had gone to Tongfu Inn. A few days ago, the Turkic Zhu Zeqing, who had appeared in the city, had also been staying at Tongfu Inn. Now that Zhu Zeqing had been arrested, Wang Xinyuan was still secretly running to Tongfu Inn. As for meeting a friend, who was he trying to fool? Who would meet a friend at an inn? Unless your friend was from another city. However, just as Gao Ping had analyzed, Wang Xinyuan had been imprisoned in the clan for more than a year. How could it be so coincidental that a friend from another city came to see him as soon as he was released? Therefore, Wang Xinyuan definitely did not go to Tongfu Inn to meet a friend, but to have an ulterior motive. Then there must be something wrong with Tongfu Inn. Apart from this, can you think of any other clues? Princess Tang, Anne's mind was filled with thoughts. After she came back to her senses, she looked at Gao Ping and asked again. Gao Ping thought seriously for a moment, but finally shook her head and said, "No, that's all I can think of. Other than that, I don't think there's anything strange these few days." Good. All of you are dismissed. If you think of anything else, come and tell me immediately. Princess Tang, and nodded and said to the women in the room, "Yes." Wang Hong's concubines hurriedly left the side hall as if they had been granted amnesty. Only Gao Ping was the last to leave, a trace of worry on her face. Clearly, she was worried about Wang Hong's situation. "Mother, what do you think?" After the women left, Princess Tang and looked at the old woman sitting at the head of the table and bowed. A wisp of wisdom flashed across the old woman's weathered eyes. She said meaningfully to Princess Tang and Xiaorong, "Since you already have an answer in your heart, why ask me? Do as you wish. I believe that you can definitely save the Wang family." Princess Tang and was slightly shocked, and she immediately felt respect for the old woman in front of her. She bowed and said, "Then this daughter-in-law will take her leave. I'll inform master and father now. Go. This old woman will return on her own." Matriarch Yang waved a hand at Princess Tang. In the face of danger, her expression remained calm and composed. This matriarch Yang had truly weathered all sorts of storms and experienced all sorts of ups and downs. In the main hall of the Wang family residence, after Princess Tang and told Wang Bing, Wang Yu, and the rest of the group about what Gao Ping had told her, Wang Yu couldn't help but exclaim, "Tongfu Tavern! It's Tongfu Tavern again." First, it was Zhu Zeqing, who's staying there now. In the afternoon, Wang Chengwu had reported to Wang Yu that Wang Xinyuan had left the estate early in the morning to meet with friends in the city. He had not expected Wang Xinyuan to go to Tongfu Inn, just like Princess Tang, and he also felt that there was something wrong with Tongfu Inn. To be more precise, there was something wrong with the person Wang Xinyuan had met in Tongfu Inn. "Princess, are you saying that the matter of second son colluding with the Turkic spies is also related to the patriarch's son, Wang Xinyuan?" Third elder's eyes flashed, and he looked at Princess Tang, and meaningfully. Princess Tang and's phoenix-like eyes focused, and she said unhappily, "Third elder, are you blaming my old master instead?" Even if this matter is related to Wang Xinyuan, he's now a member of the second branch. When he was imprisoned, everything was fine. Who forced my old master to adopt Wang Rini to the second branch? He's causing trouble as soon as he's out. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame those people who forced my old master to adopt him to the second branch. You. Third elder was furious, but due to Princess Tang and status, he still restrained himself. He took 2 deep breaths and said, "What are you saying?" This old man was just asking casually. What did I ever blame the patriarch? Besides, It was the patriarch who willingly adopted Xin Yuan to the second branch. Who in the estate would dare to threaten the patriarch? Oof. Seeing that third elder had given in, Princess Tang, and sneered and did not continue to harp on this matter. Sitting at the head of the table, Wang Bing said solemnly, "Enough. Right now, it's more important to find second son as soon as possible." After he finished speaking, he said to Wang Yu, Since you and the princess both feel that there's something wrong with this Tongfu Inn, and the owner of this Tongfu Inn has a certain relationship with the second branch, then immediately send someone to the Tongfu Inn and investigate the guests inside. If you can find this Gao Yong, then that's even better. Perhaps he knows the whereabouts of the second branch. Yes, this son will arrange it right away. Wang Yu got up and cupped his hands to accept the order, then left the main hall with Princess Tang. Chapter 1935. Taiyuan City, Tongfu Inn. Bang, bang, bang. Lord Guard. Inside the heaven-class guest room, Zhao Dian was standing by the window, staring out. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, followed by a low voice. Zhao Dian's gaze turned cold, but he immediately relaxed because he recognized the identity of the person outside. He said calmly, "Come in." The door wasn't locked. Xian Yi, dressed in black, pushed the door open and entered. After closing the door again, he quickly walked to Zhao Dian, cupped his fists, and said, "Lord Guard, I'm back." At this time, all the guests and waiters in the inn were resting. Naturally, Xian Yi couldn't enter from the main entrance of the inn. He could only climb in through the window, like how he climbed out of the window earlier. However, even if he was given 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to climb through the window of Zhao Dian's room. He climbed in through the window of the Earth-class guest room next door. After that, he didn't even have time to change his clothes before he came straight to Zhao Dian. "Did you find out anything?" Zhao Dian didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Lord Guard, I found out that the fire in the long alley in the south of the city this afternoon was set by Wang Xinyuan. He knew that the King of Wei was going to personally escort a batch of supplies to Dragon Mountain. So he sent people to ambush in the south of the city in advance. He didn't expect to fall into the King of Wei's trap, and one of their assassins was captured alive by the other party." Xian Yi cupped his fists and slowly recounted the conversation between Li Tai and Su Yunqing that he had eavesdropped on at the post house just now. When he finally learned the truth about the fire in the south of the city today, Zhao Dian's face was as gloomy as water. He couldn't help but curse in a low voice. Wang Xinyuan and Wang Kuei, these two idiots. The other party deliberately revealed a little flaw and acted rashly. They really can't do anything right, but they're good at ruining things. Now that their whereabouts have been exposed, if they fall into the hands of the government, I'm afraid they'll ruin my plans. At this moment, if Zhao Dian were a modern person, he really wanted to say, "Don't be afraid of godlike opponents, but be afraid of pig-like teammates." With the current situation in Taiyuan City, they had already formed a confrontation with the government forces in the dark and in the open. No one could do anything to the other. They were just waiting for the reinforcements to arrive. Then, he and Wang Kuei would launch an all-out attack. Then, the entire Taiyuan City would be theirs. However, the two idiots, Wang Kuei and Wang Xinyuan, after a series of stupid actions, directly broke the stalemate. It was very likely that the government would find a breakthrough here. But what Zhao Dian did not know was that one of the carrier pigeons he had sent to Shelikagan had been intercepted by Han Lijing. Even without Wang Xinyuan and Wang Kuei's disruption, Li Tai and the others had already learned of his plan. Although they would not be able to capture him in the short term, both the Great Tang border and Taiyuan City were now on guard. Even if his reinforcements really did come, they would find it very difficult to take Taiyuan City. But in any case, the disruption of Wang Xinyuan and Wang Kuei had accelerated Zhao Dian's exposure and failure. Xian Yi cupped his fists and said, "Rest assured, Lord Wei. I heard from King Wei and Dugu Xian that Wang Kuei and Wang Xinyuan should have escaped. Wang Kuei has a secret manor near Longshan in the south of the city. Over the years, Wang Kuei has trained a group of killers in that manner. The killer captured alive by the Imperial Army today is one of them. The old woman that the Imperial Army took away from Baosheng Lane earlier is the killer's mother. Today, the provincial governor's mansion posted the portrait and reward notice of this killer all over the city. Wang Kuei wanted to send his men to kill the old woman to silence her. But he did not expect that the man he sent was killed by Wang Changwu, the commander of the Wang family shadow guards. Later, the old woman fell into the hands of the Imperial Army. The killer confessed everything about Wang Kuei. Now, Dugu Xian has sent the Imperial Army to Wang Kuei's secret manor in the south of the city. This Wang Kuei is really difficult to achieve great things. Zhao Diyin frowned. Then, he reacted and asked, Did you just say Dugu Xian? What? From what you said, he is still alive and well. He is not dead yet. Chapter 1936. Coincidentally, just as Zhao Diyin was ordering Xian Yi to gather his men to attack Taiyuan Relay Station, Li Junxian was also gathering his men and preparing to head to Tongfuan. Although the two sides had begun to move at almost the same time, there was a problem. Li Junxian only had 10-some cavalry under his command, while Zhao Diyin had dared to attack the post house. This meant that he had more than 10-some subordinates, most likely 100 or 200. Moreover, these 200 couldn't all be staying at Tongfuan, as that would be far too conspicuous. As a result, Zhao Diyin would need to gather his forces much more quickly than Li Junxian. And the residence that Li Junxian was temporarily staying in was less than 1 li away from Tongfuan. Thus, Zhao Diyin couldn't possibly gather his men before Li Junxian arrived at Tongfuan. Lord Guard, bad news. Zhao Diyin was preparing to go out and see how things were going when he heard Xian Ye's voice. Zhao Diyin's heart trembled. At this critical moment, he feared nothing more than an accident, and he feared nothing more than someone telling him bad news. He hastily opened the door, and Xian Yi rushed in. After closing the door, he clasped his fist before Zhao Diyin could ask anything. Lord Guard, your subordinate went to the innkeeper's room to ask him to gather our men, but there was no one in the room. Innkeeper's son, he disappeared. Disappeared? Zhao Diyin frowned, a bad premonition rising in his heart. Back when they had first arrived in Sourcepeak City, they hadn't chosen to stay in the Tongfuan. Because there were many of them, it would be difficult for them to hide if they stayed in the inn. It would be very easy for the innkeeper and waiters to notice that something was amiss. So, only Zhao Diyin, Xian Yi, and Skyhawk stayed in the inn while the rest of them hid in various parts of the city. But after Wang Xinyan and Wang Kuei surrendered to them, Zhao Diyin learned that the owner behind the scenes of the Tongfu and was actually related to the second branch of the Wang family. As a result, he didn't have to worry about all of them moving in and alerting the innkeeper or waiters. He directly ordered Xian Yi to gather all of their spies in the city into the inn and stuff them into the empty guest rooms of the inn. As for those that couldn't be stuffed, Gao Yong and Wang Kuei helped to arrange for them to stay in a few houses near the Tongfu Inn. It was because of this that Xian Yi had thought of asking the innkeeper, Sun Dafu, for help when Zhao Diyin ordered Xian Yi to gather his men. Only in this way could they gather all their men in the shortest amount of time. But Xian Yi had never expected that Sun Dafu, who had been staying at the inn for the past few days, would actually disappear. Didn't Gao Yong say that Sun Dafu would be staying at the inn to cooperate with us? How could he suddenly disappear? Could it be? Zhao Diyin muttered in dissatisfaction. Then he suddenly thought of a possibility, and his face instantly became extremely gloomy. He frowned and said in a deep voice, "Not good. It's very likely that someone has set their sights on Tongfu Inn. We've been exposed. Then what should we do?" Xian Yi was shocked when he heard this and asked subconsciously. Then he hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Lord Guard, please evacuate immediately. Your subordinates are willing to risk their lives to escort you." Chapter 1937. What? A group of people is coming from the east? Aren't the relay station and the provincial governor's mansion in the north? Why are there people coming from the east? And they're so fast. In the alley behind Tongfu Inn, Zhao Dian was shocked when he heard Sky Eagle say that there was a group of people coming from the east. However, when he came to his senses, he could not help but feel a little strange. When he found out that Sun Dafu, the innkeeper of the inn, had gone missing, he guessed that Sun Dafu might have been captured by the provincial governor's mansion or the imperial army. However, the provincial governor's mansion and the relay station were in the north of Taiyuan City. Even if the other party had sent people to surround the inn, they should have come from the north. Moreover, the other party should not have come so quickly. After all, Tongfu Inn was in the south of Taiyuan City. How many people are coming from the other party? After forcing himself to calm down, Zhao Dian regained his composure and looked at Sky Eagle as he asked in a low voice. Sky Eagle cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to the guardmaster, the other party does not have many people. There are only about 10 of them. All of them are riding fast horses. They'll catch up in a while. Do you want me to bring a few people to deal with them? 10 of them? All of them are riding fast horses?" Zhao Dian's heart sank when he heard this. Of course, he knew that Taiyuan City would implement a curfew system at night. Those who dared to ride horses in public in the middle of the night either had their heads kicked by a donkey or the other party really had an official background. Obviously, these 10 or so cavalrymen coming toward the inn were definitely from the Tang Empire's government. When did the government arrange such a surprise army near the inn? This was a question that Zhao Dian could not figure out no matter how hard he tried. However, there was no time for him to think about this at this moment. He had to make a decision. Although the cavalry coming from the east didn't have many people, they were fast. If he didn't pay attention to them, the other party would first miss the inn and then chase after them from behind. Or the other party might guess their intentions and go to the post house to report in advance. However, if he followed Sky Eagle's suggestion and sent people to intercept the cavalrymen, on the one hand, they only had about 100 people. If they split their forces to deal with the cavalrymen, it would definitely weaken the power to attack the relay station. On the other hand, although the other party only had about 10 people, he did not know how strong they were. The people he could send to intercept them were very limited. If they could not win, or the noise during the battle attracted the Yamans patrolling in the city, the other party would still send people on fast horses to chase them. Who would have thought that a cavalry troop of over 10 people would actually cause Zhao Dian's current situation to seem to have fallen into a dead knot that could not be untied no matter what? Guardmaster, quickly give the order. If those people catch up any later, our operation might be exposed. Seeing Zhao Dian standing on the spot without saying a word, Sky Eagle was anxious and could not help but urge. Zhao Dian's eyes flashed as he recovered from his deep thoughts. Just a moment ago, he suddenly thought of a plan that satisfied both sides and was extremely bold. Taking 2 deep breaths, Zhao Dian looked at Sky Eagle and Xian Yi and said in a deep voice, "Xian Yi, Sky Eagle, the 2 of you lead these people to attack the relay station immediately. You must capture Li Tai alive. Leave 10 people behind and follow me back to the relay station." What? Sky Eagle and Xian Yi turned pale with fright when they heard this. They hurriedly said, "Guardmaster, you must not do this." Xian Yi hurriedly said, "The other party only has about 10 people. I'll lead people to eliminate them now and then chase after them to assist Guardmaster in attacking the relay station. We definitely won't waste any time." "That's right, Guardmaster. The other party only has about 10 people. Why do you have to personally take the risk?" Sky Eagle also said. Zhao Dian's face was extremely grim. He looked at the 2 people before him and said coldly, "Umph. After knowing that I'm in the inn, the other party only has about 10 people who dare to surround the inn. Why do you think this is? Umph. This is because either there's a top-notch expert among them, or these 10 over people are only the enemy's vanguard. After they find out the actual situation, the enemy's main force will immediately surround us." Hearing Zhao Dian's words, Xian Yi and Sky Eagle calmed down one after another. Indeed, if there was a top-notch expert among the enemy, then they would be utterly unable to finish the battle in a short period of time. If there was a large force following behind the enemy, then it would be even more troublesome. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.